the maximum level expert. She thrives in interstellar riches. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 251, Just an Actor 2. When Jiu was taken back to the ward by the two nurses, she lay back on the bed very obediently, looking very sleepy. Seeing this, the two nurses were too lazy to even pretend to be nice, and they just closed the door and left. When they closed the door and the footsteps gradually faded, Wen Jiu swept away her previous anxious and tangled look, climbed down the bed calmly, and began to search. She opened the bedside table and fumbled under the bed for a while, but did not find the empty bottles of nutrient solution and medicine. Strange. Wen Jiu sat cross-legged on the ground and recalled carefully. She clearly remembered that after Zhu Wangming took the empty bottle, he bent down and fumbled around her bedside table for a while. Then Zhu Wangming got up and walked to the cart, but he didn't have anything in his hand. So he definitely didn't take the two empty bottles away. As for the empty bottles taken by those people, Wen Jiu estimated that Zhu Wangming should have taken them out specifically to confuse them. She searched for it, but couldn't find it, so she simply lay back on the bed and closed her eyes to rest. The nurses and doctors in the examination room just now should be the brothers and sisters of those people. They dared to take her to the examination directly like this, which clearly showed that they were not afraid that she would tell others and expose them. In addition, the man tried to test her about who would deliver the medicine, so she could be sure that there were people lurking in the dark in the hospital to pass on the news to these people. Otherwise, how would that person know that Dr. Zhu had been to her ward? Her hospitalization record this time did not fill in who the attending doctor was. However, the chess pieces buried in the dark by the other party should not be of much use, and their positions are not high, at least not to the point where they can check and retrieve the surveillance at will. Otherwise, if they had seen the surveillance in advance, they would know that she was lying. Of course, it is not ruled out that Zhu Wangming had made preparations in advance and tampered with the surveillance video. In short, at least the person who passed the message only knew that Dr. Zhu had been to her and did not know whether there was a nurse accompanying him. When Jiu thought about it and didn't feel sleepy anymore. After tossing the review process just now, she was a little hungry now. Just when she was thinking about whether to send a message to Zhu Wangming and ask him to prepare some dinner for her, there was a knock on the door of the ward. After a few seconds, the door was pushed open, and the slightly plump figure made her feel familiar. "Good evening, Xiao Wen." Zhao Xiao walked in with a smile, pushing a small cart, followed by the doctor who had just checked Wen Jiu. "This is Dr. Wang." Zhao Xiao pushed the cart to Wen Jiu's bed and introduced her in a gentle tone. "Dr. Zhu went out to do some work this afternoon and hasn't come back yet, so Dr. Wang is here to make rounds." When she smiled, her eyes curved like a crescent moon, and anyone who saw her would think she was kind and friendly. "Hello, Dr. Wang." Wen Jiu took the initiative to say hello. After all, they had just met in the afternoon. However, Dr. Wang only nodded coldly, which was completely different from the fawning and servile look when he was with Zhu Qinghan. After he approached, he first checked Wen Jiu's injuries. The wound on the left arm is healing well. For other bruises, just spray some spray and rest well. Then he took out a simple instrument for detecting physical values and checked Wen Jiu's health. "You are really weak, not like a military school student who exercises regularly." Dr. Wang stared at the display on the instrument and frowned. "It's even worse than ordinary people." After he finished speaking, Zhao Xiao hurried forward and said, "It's impossible. I remember that Xiao Wen's physical values were quite high last time he came." She turned her head and looked at Wen Jiu and said, "Xiao Wen, did you eat something bad? Some medicines and foods will temporarily affect the accuracy of the test values." However, Wen Jiu just sat on the bed and shook his head obediently. "No, Sister Zhao, I eat and drink things from the hospital." After hearing her words, Zhao Xiao leaned forward again and asked with a worried look on her face, "Did anyone send you anything else to eat?" Your body is weak to begin with, so you can't just eat things sent by others. Well, no. Wen Jiu shook his head again. Seeing that she could not get anything out of him, Zhao Ziya and Dr. Wang looked at each other. Then Dr. Wang said, "You are weak, so just take a good rest. I will prescribe 2 more medicines for you to replenish your body later." After that, he put away the equipment and handed it to Zhao Ziya. Then Nurse Zhao, please give the nutrient solution to Ziya Wen for the evening. I will go to the next ward to see the patients first. After giving the instructions, Dr. Wang walked out the door. Come, Ziya Wen. Zhao Ziya took a bottle of nutrient solution from the cart and opened it for Wen Jiu. This is the nutrient solution customized for you by Dr. Zhu. He told me to give it to you before he left. Wen Jiu took the nutrient solution, pretended to be curious, and took it to his nose to sniff it, and then took a sip. Seeing that there was no difference, Zhao Ziya immediately felt relaxed. You have to drink it all to recover properly. Hearing this, Wen Jiu nodded obediently and cutely, but she did not drink the remaining nutrient solution. She just shook the bottle in her hand. Seeing this, Zhao Ziya quickly asked, "Why don't you drink it? If you don't finish it, you will be hungry, and it will also affect your body's recovery." "Sister Zhao," Wen Jiu's voice was a little weak. "I want to eat. I don't want to drink the nutrient solution." Zhao Ziya was stunned for a moment and then immediately smiled. "But the food is not as nutritious as the nutrient solution, not to mention that this is specially made for you by Dr. Zhu." When she mentioned the 2 words drive Zhu and specially, she emphasized it. Wen Jiu looked at the nutrient solution in his hand with a tangled face, and Zhao Ziya sat by the bed and continued to persuade him, "You drink this nutrient solution obediently, and sister will bring you a super delicious breakfast tomorrow morning. How about it?" She stared at Wen Jiu while she said, fearing that he would not agree to drink the nutrient solution. After a while, Wen Jiu picked up the nutrient solution and pretended to drink it. "Yes, that's it." Zhao Ziya just smiled with relief and saw that the other party stopped moving. "Sister Zhao, I just don't want to drink it." After saying this, Wen Jiu threw the nutrient solution bottle out before she could react. The clear blue liquid drew a line in the air, and the liquid in the bottle was emptied, and then it fell to the ground with a snap, scattered on the ground. Zhao Ziya stared at Wen Jiu with wide eyes, and for a moment she forgot that she had to maintain her good image. If you don't want to drink it, just forget it. Why are you wasting Dr. Zhu's kindness like this?" However, Wen Jiu just sat back, leaned on the pillow and said indifferently, "I said I don't want to drink it. Why are you forcing me to drink it?" Today's second update. Thank you to every little angel who voted for me. Woo woo woo. I just found out that there is a double monthly ticket event CAC. Chapter 252. Just an Actor 3. Zhao Ziya thought that Wen Jiu might be suspicious and uncooperative, but at most he would just verbally refuse. But she didn't expect that the other party would be so ruthless and throw the nutrient solution out and smash it on the ground. Such a movement was naturally heard by Dr. Wang outside, but he didn't rush in to ask, but stood outside the door and continued to eavesdrop. "Ziya Wen, why did you throw away the nutrient solution?" Zhao Ziya stood in front of the bed with her hands on her waist. She had come back to her senses, so she acted like she was anxious because the patient didn't cooperate. "It's for your own good that I'll let you drink this nutrient solution. Dr. Zhu and I hope you can recover soon. It's best to replenish your body and try to get sick less in the hospital in the future. But you let down Dr. Zhu and me like this. Do you know how sad we will be? Do you think I'm hurting you?" In fact, Wen Jiu really wanted to say something back, "What else?" but she just turned her head away angrily and didn't look at Zhao Ziya, looking like a stubborn and disobedient child. Seeing Wen Jiu's unwillingness to cooperate, Zhao Ziya sighed again and continued, "Ziya Wen, sister promised you that I will send you patient meals tomorrow, okay? Let's drink the nutrient solution tonight and eat more food tomorrow, okay?" "No, I don't want to drink." Wen Jiu pulled the quilt directly and wrapped himself in it, leaving only a few strands of hair outside. Seeing this, Zhao Ziya was angry and anxious. She couldn't force Wen Jiu to drink the nutrient solution. After all, she had to continue to play the role of being friendly and good-tempered. If she got angry or forced him, her true face would be exposed directly, and the other party would also suspect her. Just when Zhao Zai was at a loss, Dr. Wang walked to the door and waved, saying, "If the patient doesn't want to drink, don't drink. I will send patient meals later. Nurse Zhao, go away, don't disturb other patients to rest." Hearing these words, Zhao Zai just pursed her lips and glared angrily at the bulge on the bed. "Zhao Wen, I was wrong just now." Her eyes were full of disdain, but her tone was still gentle. "Don't be angry, I will bring you the patient meal you want later." After saying that, she pushed the cart out of the ward. Perhaps she felt unhappy. Zhao Zai closed the door with more force than usual, and the bang made Dr. Wang a little dissatisfied. "Why are you angry at a little kid?" Dr. Wang took Zhao Zai back to his office, and he spoke first. After closing the door, she smashed the bottle directly. "How can I not be angry?" Zhao Zai put the cart aside, her face full of depression and dissatisfaction. Dr. Wang did not mean to comfort her, but said calmly, "This behavior is in line with her personality. The intelligence sent over there mentioned that Wen Jiu never likes others to force her to do things. And her personality is a bit stubborn, and she is easy to go against others when she is dissatisfied." As he spoke, he opened the light screen panel and input the details he had just observed. "So since you forced her to drink the nutrient solution like that, she would naturally go against you and make you angry. It seems that her performance is consistent with the intelligence provided, and we can report the situation to Mr. Zhu." Zhao Zai let out a long sigh of relief, and then said slowly, "Her performance is similar to the first time I met her, and Lieutenant Liang's people also said that she has a stubborn personality and is soft-hearted." After hearing her words, Dr. Wang, who was inputting information, paused for a moment and said, "This at least proves that there is nothing wrong with the intelligence, but she was quite cooperative in the examination room in the afternoon, which I think is a bit strange." Hearing this, Zhao Zai replied disapprovingly, "You are re-examining her. This reason is both natural and legitimate. She has no reason not to cooperate with you. And Dr. Zhu should have told her about the re-examination, so it is normal that she did not doubt you." Dr. Wang thought for a while, and then deleted the part of the message box that he thought was strange. "You have a point. There is no reason for her not to cooperate with the re-examination." The two of them talked for a while, and only after Dr. Wang edited the information and sent it to Zhu Chenggen did he let Zhao Zai leave the office. "Thank you, beautiful nurse." Sister Wen Jiu sat on the bed and waved to the young nurse at the door. The other party smiled and replied to her, "You're welcome," and then gently closed the door of the ward. Just now, she threw the nutrient solution on the ground and made the area dirty. Zhao Zai left directly because she was upset, so she could only press the call bell to find another nurse to clean the floor. Anyway, there is a cleaning robot, and a nurse sister and the robot quickly cleaned the floor. Wen Jiu lay down on the bed again after seeing the door closed. She just felt very hungry at this moment. When she took the nutrient solution before, she was on guard and didn't intend to drink it. And she just pretended to touch it close to her lips and didn't really drink a drop. After all, Zhao Zai looked very weird, so she wouldn't be reckless enough to really drink the nutrient solution sent by the other party. Now that there was no nutrient solution to drink or food to eat, Wen Jiu thought about pressing the call bell again. How could she forget to ask other nurses for food? Just when she was about to press the call bell, she heard the sound of a cart approaching outside. So Wen Jiu quickly hugged a pillow and covered herself with a quilt and began to pretend that she was resting. Sure enough, there was a knock on the door not long after. "Zhao Wen, are you still angry? Sister is here to bring you something delicious." Zhao Zai opened the door quietly, and when she saw Wen Jiu lying on the bed motionless, she opened the door completely and walked in with a cart. "Zhao Wen, get up and eat something before going to sleep, okay?" Her voice was very soft, and her eyes were looking straight at Wen Jiu on the bed. Seeing that the other party still did not respond and seemed to be asleep, Zhao Zai thought of taking this opportunity to search the room carefully. If she could find something, she would be rewarded and promoted. So she continued to observe Wen Jiu's condition for a few minutes and confirmed that he was really sleeping. She slowly squatted down and wanted to start searching from the bedside table and under the bed. As a result, she just squatted down with her head lowered at the head of the bed, and then she heard a snap, and then a soft unknown object hit her head. Zalzaya was a little dazed by the slap, and before she could stand up, she was slapped hard a few more times. Those few slaps directly messed up her hair, and a nurse's cap on her head was even knocked to the ground. Stop hitting. She took a step back and stood up suddenly, only to see Wen Jiu looking at her with puzzled eyes. Hey, Sister Zal, why are you here? I thought a bad guy came in. Wen Jiu silently put down the pillow in his hand and scratched his head very embarrassedly. Before Zalzaya got angry, she asked carefully, Sister Zal, you are such a good person, so if I hit you a few times by mistake, you will definitely not be angry, right? Today's third update is also delivered. I hope the little angels enjoy watching this. 030. I'm begging for monthly tickets in a very low voice. I just found out there's a double monthly ticket event ORZ. If you have tickets, please vote. If you don't have any, I won't force you. 030. Chapter 253 Garlic Cream Mushroom Chicken Stew 1. Wen Jiu pursed her lips and sat on the bed. She looked innocent and apologetic. Her actions were not very harmful but extremely insulting. Zalzaya was angry and depressed for a moment. She wanted to get angry at the other party, but her reason told her not to do so. So Zalzaya could only start to brainwash herself madly, telling herself that she must calm down quickly. Time passed by minute, and Wen Jiu just sat with her head down, playing with her fingers non-stop, looking completely flustered, after doing something wrong. Don't panic, Zio Wen, of course your sister won't be angry about this kind of thing. Zalzaya quickly tidied her hair and picked up the nurse cap that had fallen to the ground. She forced a smile and pushed the cart over and took out a thermos box from the top layer. Look what your sister brought you. Didn't you say you wanted to eat? Not only did I bring you patient meals, but I also bought some snacks for you to eat. As she said that, she put the thermos box on the bedside table and then pulled out a table from the side of the bed and set it up. Come on. Tonight's patient meal is very rich. There are wild vegetable rice, steamed carrots, soy sauce, mashed potatoes, Zalzaya said as she opened the thermos box and placed it on the table. There are also vinegar flavored yellow croquer and tomato soup. Wen Jiu raised her head slightly to look at the food on the table. It would have been better if she hadn't looked at it. As soon as she looked at it, the tears in her eyes rolled down. This patient meal is too shabby. She hasn't eaten such an indescribable meal for a long time. If it were her who had just come to this world, she would definitely pick up the bowl and eat without saying a word. But now she just wanted to say that she felt that she had recovered. Could she go to the kitchen to cook and eat by herself? And this, Zalzaya took out a lunchbox from the cart after she set up the patient's meal. This snack is called Bei Pang Pang because it looks white and plump, and the filling inside is very delicious. Hearing her say this, Wen Jiu moved his eyes to the lunchbox. The light blue lunchbox contained 2 fist-sized off-white doughs, and the surface looked a little bumpy. Okay, she felt that she had lost some appetite. Zalzaya set up the dishes and saw that Wen Jiu was just staring at the table blankly, so she asked, "What's wrong, Zio Wen? Is the food not to your taste?" Well, no. Wen Jiu shook his head slowly. She was just thinking about how to refuse to eat this dinner. It's not that she disliked the food, because it didn't look delicious. They were all people who picked up garbage, so she could still bear to eat it. But the key is that this meal was sent by Zalzaya. Sister Zal, I'm not hungry yet. Wen Jiu touched his stomach and sighed, and my stomach is a little uncomfortable. Hearing this, Zalzaya hurriedly put on a concerned expression and leaned over and said, "Which part is uncomfortable?" Wen Jiu pointed to the upper part. "It seems to be uncomfortable here, sister. I remember this is the stomach, right?" "Yes." Zalzaya thought for a moment and said, "What kind of discomfort is it? Do you feel pain in that part, or do you have any other symptoms?" After she finished speaking, Wen Jiu frowned and shook his head, then looked up and looked at her and answered, "It doesn't hurt. I just feel like vomiting." Zalzaya was silent after hearing this. She didn't know why she had a strange feeling that she was scolded. She was about to say something to persuade Wen Jiu to eat, and then heard a deep male voice. Zhao Zha, what are you doing here so late? Zhu Wangming didn't wear his usual white coat, but just a simple sweater and windbreaker. It seemed that he had just come back from doing something outside. Seeing him walk in, Zhao Zha quickly said, "Good evening, Dr. Zhu. Zhao Wen is clamoring to eat patient meals tonight, so I went to get the patient meals and sent them over. Well, since the patient meals have been delivered, you can go back and rest." Zhu Wangming was still holding a dark bag in his hand, and no one knew what was in it. Zhao Zha did not dare to refute, and could only push the cart away quickly, but when she passed by Zhu Wangming, she secretly glanced at the other's open pocket. There seemed to be a few clusters of green unknown objects near the opening of the pocket, but she could not see what it was with just a quick glance, so she could only leave the ward with confusion and dissatisfaction. After she left, Zhu Wangming first closed the door, and then handed the bag to Wen Jiu and said, "I was afraid that you would have a psychological shadow after drinking the nutrient solution at noon, so I bought some ingredients to bring back for you." Wen Jiu took the bag and saw that it was indeed filled with a variety of ingredients. But she didn't feel very happy. "Uncle Zhu, I thought you would bring me food, but you let me do it myself. I wanted to pack some food for you." Zhu Wangming put his hands in his pockets, "But I see you don't like to eat outside food, and the food outside is not as delicious as yours. So I went to the supermarket to pick some ingredients. I believe you can make a good meal." After saying that, he walked to the bed and patted Wen Jiu's head. "Oh." Wen Jiu sighed as he touched his hungry stomach. "Then the question is, where should I cook?" Zhu Wangming put away the insulated box brought by Zhao Zha and said, "Some people in the hospital like to eat what they cook, so we set up a kitchen for them to cook. No one should be using it now. Get up and put on your shoes and I'll take you there." So Wen Jiu turned over from the bed, put on his shoes, and followed Zhu Wangming to the so-called special kitchen with his bag in hand. It was already 8:30 in the evening, and most of the medical staff on the night shift had already had dinner. When Wen Jiu and Zhu Wangming came to the special kitchen, it was pitch black and there was no one in sight. "Go, little Wen Jiu." Zhu Wangming clicked a few times on the electronic panel beside the door, and the lights in the kitchen lit up instantly. Wen Jiu glanced around and found that the environment here was quite clean and the room was spacious. She walked to the chopping board with her bag in hand and poured all the ingredients in her bag on it. She had only taken a cursory look before, but when she laid out the things, she realized that Zhu Wangming was really good at chopping. Leeks, white mushrooms, garlic, onions, tomatoes, potatoes, carrots, cabbage, and a large bag of boneless chicken thighs. "Uncle Zhu, the ingredients you bought are quite fancy." Wen Jiu picked up the bundle of leeks and turned to look at Zhu Wangming. "I hope you can tell me that you really want to buy leeks and not buy the wrong ones. Today's first update has been delivered. Please check it out, little angels." 030. Chapter 254 Garlic Cream Mushroom Chicken Stew 2. Zhu Wangming was stunned for a second, and then his eyes wandered. Ahem. Of course I want to buy leeks. How could he admit that he mistook leeks for shallots? He felt that such a mistake was outrageous. "Oh," Wen Jiu stretched out her tone, "then Uncle Zhu, you can eat leeks for dinner." After that, she looked at the ingredients on the chopping board and felt a little embarrassed. She felt that Zhu Wangming must have rushed into the supermarket and picked up a few things in the fruit and vegetable area without considering whether these ingredients could be used together. But this small problem is nothing. Wen Jiu searched the stove and the cupboard first, and then opened the refrigerator and took a look. The seasonings here are quite complete, and some of the seasoning bottles have not even been unpacked, but there are still a few things she needs. So she turned her head and looked at Zhu Wangming and said, "Uncle Zhu, you can't just stand there and wait, and how can you have the nerve to eat without working, right?" Hearing this, Zhu Wangming knew that Wen Jiu must be up to something. "Then tell me, what do you want me to do for you? Wash or cut the vegetables?" he said and took 2 steps forward. However, Wen Jiu only replied, "Bring me some herbs, rosemary, thyme, and basil leaves." Her words made Zhu Wangming a little confused. "What do you want these herbs for? Are you planning to make potions here, or do you want to make nutrient solution?" I need these for cooking. Wen Jiu explained patiently. Grind the rosemary and thyme into powder separately, and the basil leaves need to be fresh. Seeing that she was serious and not joking, Zhu Wangming nodded and turned to walk to the door. Uncle Zhu, can you ask that nurse Liu Mimui if I can borrow some of her ingredients? I'll only use a little, and I'll transfer the star coins to you later, and then you can pass them to her. Wen Jiu's voice sounded again, and Zhu Wangming turned back and responded frequently. After she finished speaking, Zhu Wangming sighed and left quickly. Wen Jiu was the only one left in the kitchen, and she began to process the ingredients in an orderly manner. The first thing to deal with was the large bag of boneless chicken thighs. She washed the bag of chicken thighs and divided it into two parts. One part was used to make borscht, and it did not need to be marinated or seasoned, just cut into small pieces. The other part could not be processed until Zhu Wangming brought her what she needed, so she then washed and cut various vegetables and placed them aside waiting to be put into the pot. Little Wen Jiu, I brought the herbs you wanted. After Zhu Wangming closed the door, he strode to Wen Jiu's side and then placed 2 bottles and a handful of basil leaves on the chopping board. Thank you, uncle. Wen Jiu picked up the bottle and looked at it. It was labeled thoughtfully, fearing that she would confuse rosemary with thyme. I asked Nurse Liu for you, and she said you can use it freely. After giving the things, Zhu Wangming dragged her chair out from the corner and sat down to wait for the meal. Hearing this, Wen Jiu nodded and began to process the other part of the chicken thighs. She put the large pieces of chicken thighs into a pot, then poured in salt, black pepper, rosemary and thyme, then added some garlic cloves and onion rings, and finally put on gloves to mix the chicken thighs and seasonings for marinating. While this part of the chicken thighs needed to be marinated for a while, Wen Jiu found a stew pot from the cupboard and prepared to simmer borscht on the fire. The method of making borscht is different in each household, and this dish evolved from the foreign red vegetable soup introduced to China, so there are more ways to make it. 1. Wen Jiu chose the simpler Shanghai method, but because of the limited ingredients, she could only try to restore it as much as possible. After lighting the fire, she poured a small amount of oil on the bottom of the pot, then added onions, and fried until they were slightly yellowed and softened, and then added carrots and tomatoes and stir-fried again. Uncle Zhu, please help me get Nurse Liu's butter from the refrigerator. Butter is a dairy product that is not difficult to prepare, so it is a common ingredient here. As soon as Zhu Wangming opened the refrigerator, he saw Nurse Liu's butter. The palm-sized package was affixed with a pink heart sticker, on which Nurse Liu's name and the name of the ingredient were written in pen. The seasonings and kitchen utensils in the kitchen are shared, but the ingredients must be prepared by yourself. In order to prevent confusion and use of your own ingredients by others, the medical staff who often come to the kitchen to cook will label the ingredients. Here you go. Wen Jiu took the butter handed over by Zhu Wangming, tore open the package, cut a small piece, and threw it into the pot, then continued to stir fry until the light yellow butter cubes were completely melted. Then she took a large bowl of water and poured it into the pot. After stirring the ingredients in the pot, she put in the chopped chicken thighs and potatoes, as well as a little seasoning. The next step was to cover the pot and simmer, so Wen Jiu started to make another dish. Fry the marinated chicken thighs in a pan until they are browned, then add a small piece of butter until it melts, and then pour in the sliced white mushrooms and fry until soft. Then add various seasonings and the milk provided by Nurse Liu. In fact, it would be better to use whipped cream here, but there is no whipped cream in the refrigerator. Although Wen Jiu can make whipped cream by herself, she is really hungry and doesn't want to spend more time, so she chooses milk to make do. After stirring the contents of the pot evenly, add the brown chicken thighs that have just been fried and cook until the soup is thick. As time passed, the aroma in the kitchen became more and more intense. You don't need to smell it carefully to smell the sweet and sour aroma of borscht and the tempting garlic aroma of cream mushroom stew chicken. Little Wen Jiu, when can we have dinner? Zhu Wangming smelled the aroma and felt that he was very hungry. He ate and drank half a bottle of nutrient solution at noon today and was busy dealing with various things outside in the afternoon. He was a little dizzy. It was not easy to find time to go to the supermarket to buy ingredients. He originally wanted to have dinner before returning to the hospital, but someone told him that Zhao Zai was pestering Wen Jiu, so he hurried back without even having time to have dinner or drink a nutrient solution. It's almost done. Wen Jiu swallowed her saliva, stirring the thick borscht with a spoon in her hand. When she thought it was almost done, she picked up the bowl next to her and filled 2 bowls with borscht and then put the stewed chicken with garlic cream mushrooms on a plate. It's time to eat, Uncle Zhu. Hearing this, Zhu Wangming hurriedly washed his hands and walked quickly to the chopping board. Because everyone took the food back to the office or to the cafeteria after cooking, there was no special dining table prepared for people to use in the kitchen. But now only Wen Jiu and Zhu Wangming were here, so the two of them made do with using the chopping board as a dining table. Today's second update has also been delivered. Please check it out, little angels. 030 Thank you to every little angel who voted. You have worked hard these days. ORZPS. 1. Reference from Baidu Encyclopedia. Chapter 255 Garlic Cream Mushroom Chicken Stew 3. After the chopping board table was cleaned up, the freshly cooked food was placed on the table. The garlic cream mushroom stew chicken was still steaming, like a faint white mist floating in the air, with a strong aroma of garlic and milk. The 2 large bowls of borscht were bright red and dotted with tender green basil leaves. Just lying there was a kind of temptation that made people salivate. Come on, Zhu Wangming moved 2 chairs over. Finally, we can eat. Ever since he had the mutton soup made by Wen Jiu last time, he had been thinking about it day and night and hoped to have it again. Of course, it would be better if he could have it more times. But Wen Jiu was always studying in the college, so he had no time to cook for him and he couldn't go to the college cafeteria to eat. So he could only hope that Wen Jiu would finish his exams and have a holiday soon so that he could go to his store to buy food. By the way, after you came last time, Laochu's health has been getting better day by day. Zhu Wangming saw that Wen Jiu was still cutting something, so he went over to take a look. The other party was seen cutting the bundle of leeks that he had bought by mistake, and there was a bowl not far away with stirred egg liquid. It's good that Grandpa Chu's health is getting better. Wen Jiu put the chopped leeks into the empty bowl, then skillfully poured oil and turned on the fire and waited until the oil temperature rose before pouring the egg liquid in. After the egg liquid entered the iron pan, it quickly solidified into an omelette. She used a spatula to scratch the omelette a few times, then put in the leeks and a little salt and started to stir fry. In a moment, a plate of scrambled eggs with leeks and green and golden colors came out of the pan. Take it away and eat. Wen Jiu turned off the fire and went straight to the chopping board. Zhu Wangming, who was following behind, honestly took the plate. He didn't expect that the leeks he took by mistake could also be made into a dish by Wen Jiu. The bowls, chopsticks, and plates used for eating were all lent to them by Nurse Liu. Wen Jiu thanked this nurse sister from the bottom of her heart, who she had never met, otherwise she would have to eat rice with her hands in her hand tonight. The temperature at night is always lower, so the 2 dishes that came out of the pot a little earlier did not have much heat rising. Zhu Wangming scooped a mouthful of borscht and blew it to his mouth. With the experience of being scalded by mutton soup last time, he decisively chose to be cautious and refused to be scalded again. The red and rich soup was smooth in the mouth. The tomatoes that had been peeled and simmered for a long time were already soft and rotten. They almost melted into the soup without chewing. The sour and sweet taste is really a great tool for appetizers, and the sour and sweet taste is also accompanied by the spicy fragrance of onions, which makes people feel more appetite. The stewed potatoes turned into mud with a light poke. After stirring a few times with the soup and eating it in the mouth, it has a soft and delicate taste with a strong sweet and sour taste. Every scoop of it can bring Zhu Wangming full of surprises. It feels that this borscht will never get boring. However, Wen Jiu was not satisfied with the meal. Although the chicken thighs were tender and refreshing, and the chicken thighs were more delicious after being baptized by the soup, she still thought that beef was the best for making borscht. The chewy beef with sweet and sour tomatoes could make her eat 3 bowls of rice. However, the conditions were limited, so it was okay to eat chicken. Delicious. Zhu Wangming suddenly exclaimed, almost scaring Wen Jiu, who was wandering in his memory of the borscht with beef. Wen Jiu looked at him speechlessly. Uncle, can you eat slowly? There is still a large bowl of it left in the pot, and I won't snatch it from you. Zhu Wangming was immersed in the sweet and sour taste of the borscht, so he ate it one spoonful after another without stopping. After hearing what Wen Jiu said, he slowed down and shifted his attention to the garlic cream mushroom stew chicken. He picked up a piece of fried chicken thigh meat. The size of the meat was different from that in the borscht, because Wen Jiu only scored it twice to make it easier to taste, and did not cut it into small pieces. But this did not hinder Zhu Wangming from eating. He took a bite from the edge of the chicken thigh meat, and the tender and soft chicken thigh meat instantly splashed some soup into his mouth. The rich meat aroma was accompanied by a mellow milk aroma. This strange collision made him feel particularly amazing. When he watched Wen Jiu pour milk into the pot before, he was still worried about whether he would taste the milky smell or other strange smells. Now that he really tasted this strange taste, he felt surprised and delicious. The aroma of garlic after being fried was also very tempting. It was more fresh and fragrant when blended into the chicken. Moreover, the chicken tasted fragrant but not greasy, soft and juicy, but not too soft. Then use a spoon to scoop up some soup and white mushrooms. The sliced white mushrooms are of moderate thickness. When you bite them, you feel like you are eating meat. With the garlic and milk aroma in the rich soup, it is a novel experience when you eat it. Zhu Wangming really wants to sigh that he has been eating garbage for the past 20 years. Only after tasting the real delicious food will you know how bad the food was in the past. Thinking of this, Zhu Wangming couldn't help but say, "Zio Wen Jiu, I will definitely solve this matter as soon as possible. Not only to help your mother you out of danger, but also to let you go back to make up for the exam and complete your studies. Good children must study hard and take the exams well." He said this seriously. If others heard it, they would only think that he was really teaching Wen Jiu to study hard. However, Wen Jiu, who was not really a kid, just said lazily, "Uncle Zhu, that's enough. I think you just want me to go on vacation as soon as possible after the makeup exam, so that you can come to my restaurant for dinner. We are acquaintances now. There is no need to tell lies in a serious manner." Seeing that his thoughts were exposed, Zhu Wangming did not feel embarrassed at all, but continued, "Well, you are right. Then how much discount can I get when I go to your restaurant for dinner?" Hearing this, Wen Jiu put down the spoon and smiled, stretched out his hand, and made a 5. "I didn't expect that you would give me a 50% discount, little Wen Jiu." Zhu Wangming's tone was quite surprised. Wen Jiu shook his head and said, "What I mean is that I will charge you 5 times more for your meal." Zhu Wangming felt hurt when he heard this. "I gave you so much nutrient solution to replenish your body, and you treat me like this? How about 10 times more?" Wen Jiu asked him, "Uncle Zhu, I'm very poor. You see, I have to rely on you to afford the nutrient solution. How can I give customers a discount?" Zhu Wangming sighed helplessly. It's not like he didn't know about Wen Jiu's house purchase. He had the nerve to cry poor when he could afford the house. However, he didn't say what he was complaining about, but changed the subject and said, "How was your follow-up examination this afternoon? Did it go smoothly? Today's third update is also delivered. I hope all the little angels enjoy reading." 030. Chapter 256 You Are Not a Person 1. After he asked this, Wen Jiu talked about her experience during the follow-up examination, the strange man she met, and Zhao Ziya's various actions after returning to the ward. "So Zhao Ziya is a chess piece they planted next to you?" She scooped up a spoonful of thick white cream mushroom sauce and slowly poured it on the brown chicken. Zhu Wangming had just poured the remaining borscht into the bowl. "Yes, but I can usually get very little intelligence here, and all the important information is stored in my wisdom ring. So she didn't get any useful information before. I guess this is the reason. People over there rarely contact her to do things, so she usually disguises herself well." Hearing him say this, Wen Jiu nodded thoughtfully. Then she bit off the plump and tender chicken, chewed it slowly, and swallowed it before she spoke. "Did you just find out that something was wrong with her recently, or did you find out a long time ago?" Zhu Wangming stirred the burst, his eyes showing some helplessness. It was only after you showed up that I found out that she was also a pawn. At that time, there were too many students who needed treatment for the Dianui Forest incident, and you were mixed in. The doctor who treated you at first was not me, and that doctor wanted to report it after finding out that something was wrong with you and sent you to a special research institute. Then we performed some operations, which saved you and changed your attending physician to me. It was also by chance after that I found out that Zhao Zai was also a pawn over there. Wen Jiu waited for him to finish his words before asking, we. So Uncle Zhu, do you mean that you and teacher you have a lot of accomplices? Her focus was not only that Zhao Zai was also a hidden chess piece planted by the so-called people above, but also the word we mentioned by Zhu Wangming. The impact and losses caused by the Dianui Forest incident were quite serious, so it would definitely attract attention from many aspects. Zhu Wangming and Yu Rumen alone would definitely not be able to save her and protect her until now, so there should be an organization or force behind them to support her. But no matter which force or organization they belong to, at least they have not done anything to hurt her so far. So Wen Jiu is still somewhat interested in the organization behind Zhu Wangming and Yu Rumen, but this does not mean that she will decide to join it. After hearing her question, Zhu Wangming said with a deep look, they are like-minded partners. They are scattered in different areas and have different tasks, but our goals are the same. He paused for a moment before continuing, but you don't need to understand these things for the time being. You are still young, and the most important thing now is to study hard. Uncle Zhu, why do you still tell me this? Wen Jiu put down the bowl and spoon and turned to look at him. You have revealed a lot of things to me these 2 days. Is it really just for me to study hard? Her tone rose slightly, and she deliberately emphasized the tone of the last half of the sentence. Zhu Wangming shook his head helplessly after hearing this. He had told Yu Rumen a long time ago that this child had a special sense of precocity. Moreover, the other party's mind was quite mature, not like a child of only 12 years old at all. So he advocated telling these things to Wen Jiu as soon as possible, so that he could cooperate with their actions in the future, and at the same time, he could better protect himself with the knowledge. But whether it was Yu Rumen or Huang Qiumi and others, they all chose to conceal it from Wen Jiu and tried their best to protect her. However, there were too many hidden chess pieces on the side of the academy, and Yu Rumen almost fell into a crisis and could not get out. In addition, they made it clear that their target was Wen Jiu, so no matter from which aspect, he felt that at least Wen Jiu should know part of the matter. Thinking of this, Zhu Wangming took a deep breath and said, I really want you to study hard. After all, you can't become stronger if you don't study hard. Even if you are gifted, you can't give up studying easily. But I think you should know something about you. Although your mother Yu has always been reluctant to let you know, she thinks you are too young and just wants you to grow up happily. Having said this, he remembered the day he and Yu Rumen had an argument about Wen Jiu. The order from above is for us to protect Wen Jiu, but it doesn't say that we shouldn't let her know about our affairs. Besides, she is a very smart child. She will definitely understand after knowing it, and maybe she will be willing to join us when she grows up. Enough. Yu Rumen rarely showed a cold expression. Is everyone a tool that you can use? Wen Jiu is still just a child. No matter how smart or talented she is, I just hope she can be happier. You have read her information. She has lived in such an environment since she was a child. Can't you let her spend a few years of happy time? Yu Rumen's words blocked Zhu Wangming's inability to refute. His empathy ability is weak, so many things are measured from the perspective of interest value. That is, he was beaten several times by Yu Rumen because of his ideas, plus some other factors. He chose to retire from the military region and then become a doctor in the hospital here to assist the other party in carrying out the mission. Zhu Wangming thought about it silently for a long time, until the garlic cream mushroom stew chicken in front of him was getting less and less. He came back to his senses and picked up the plate. Little Wen Jiu, what's wrong with you? I'm talking to you in such a warm and touching moment, but you're just focusing on eating. Can you consider my feelings? After saying that, he picked up the plate and started eating, and Wen Jiu said with disgust, "That's not necessary, Uncle Zhu." However, Zhu Wangming, who was immersed in eating, only glanced at her with his peripheral vision, leaving Wen Jiu speechless. "Uncle Zhu, I have another question to ask you." She has been thinking about this question for a long time, and it seems that only Zhu Wangming can answer it for her. In fact, she doesn't care much about which organization or force they belong to. After all, it is not difficult to hear from Zhu Wangming's words just now that the other party can only tell her that much information, so there is nothing she can know if she asks related questions. What's the question? Zhu Wangming ate all the chicken thighs and white mushrooms on the plate, leaving only a little soup. If Wen Jiu wasn't here, he would have wanted to lick up all the soup without caring about his image. Unfortunately, he didn't know that he had no image in front of the other party. Wen Jiu smoothed his hair, revealing his long pointed ears. She looked at Zhu Wangming calmly and asked, "Uncle Zhu, you actually know the real reason why I became like this? The first update of today has been delivered. Please check it out, little angels." 030 Thank you to every little angel who voted and followed the update. Thank you everyone. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 257 You Are Not a Person Too. Wen Jiu's tone was very calm, and she had no intention of asking questions. What are the appearance changes caused by unknown reasons, and the so-called disordered gene sequencing? In fact, they are all covering up the real reasons, right? She wanted to talk about this topic for a long time, but every time she talked about this, Zhu Wangming looked reluctant to mention it, and always glossed over it. Now the timing is good, so she brought it up again. Hearing this, Zhu Wangming was silent for a while, then took off his glasses, and pinched his eyebrows. It can be seen that he was in a bad mood at this time, and even a little irritable. Wen Jiu just sat quietly waiting for an answer. She didn't want to be confused anymore. First, her ears and teeth changed, and then she had 2 more ears inexplicably. Anyone who encountered this would doubt life, but she was more curious and surprised. After all, she had experienced such an outrageous thing as waking up from a sleep and changing the world. What could be more unbearable than this? Alas. Zhu Wangming thought for a long time, and finally sighed, and began to tell the story slowly. I was selected to join the 3rd Military Region because of my excellent academic performance. According to convention, fresh graduates should start from the lowest level as a medical soldier, go to the battlefield for a period of time to gain enough experience, and then be assigned to different places according to their performance. But for some reason, I did not start as a medical soldier, but went directly to the affiliated research institute of the 3rd Military Region for internship. Then he slowly recalled the past, and talked about some miscellaneous things. These things were not important, but he just didn't want to think about the deepest memories. It seemed that, if he talked about irrelevant things enough and slowly, he could forget the wrong things he had done inadvertently in the past. However, it was useless to escape blindly. Even if he took the opportunity to escape to planet 3047 and tried to forget the annoying memories that made him toss and turn in the middle of the night, he could not erase the pain that became clearer as the night went on. He thought that, as long as he ran far enough, he would no longer be exposed to those evils. But things did not go as he wished. Thinking of this, Zhu Wangming's face was solemn and a little sad. My qualifications were too shallow to participate in too many experiments. I could only do some observation and record keeping, and simple medicine preparation. I thought I had to keep doing these jobs to accumulate qualifications, but suddenly one day the superiors gave me an order to join a very important experimental project. At that time, I felt very lucky because the project happened to be short of a few pharmacists, and I have always been excellent in medicine preparation and research. So I was very motivated and just wanted to make a contribution. At this point, Zhu Wangming raised his mouth in self-mockery. Wen Jiu, who was beside him, had been listening quietly, but she could guess from it that the experimental project should be the key. So she asked softly, "Uncle Zhu, what is that experimental project?" Zhu Wangming closed his eyes and took a few deep breaths. When he opened his eyes again, he felt quite vicissitudes. "Human experiment," he said with a trembling voice. "They want to create creatures that can change between humans and beasts at will and combine human genes with beast genes. It is said that such creatures have strong combat power and high talent." This time it was Wen Jiu's turn to be silent. It was no big deal to travel through time. She had successfully accepted the reality. But this suddenly told her that she might be an experimental product, and most likely an unknown creature that was half human and half beast. She thought that she had not committed any heinous crimes when she lived in modern times, so why was she not even allowed to be a human? "So, I'm not a person?" Wen Jiu raised his slightly trembling hand and pointed at himself. Zhu Wangming stared at her with a complicated expression. "Yes, you are not a person." The kitchen was silent for a few seconds, and then the two laughed at the same time, which eased the previous heavy atmosphere. "But Uncle Zhu, why didn't you tell me before?" Wen Jiu leaned against the table with one hand supporting his face, a little depressed. Hearing her question, Zhu Wangming said slowly, "On the one hand, it's because I don't want to recall the past, and on the other hand, it's because I'm not sure whether you are one of the experimental subjects. I was mainly responsible for the preparation of the medicine at the time, and I didn't know the specific content of the experiment, so I only know some one-sided information. And I didn't completely hide it. Your appearance changes, and gene sequencing disorders are real." This news was somewhat unexpected to Wen Jiu. She thought Zhu Wangming was just talking nonsense to cover it up, but she didn't expect it to be true. So she continued to ask, "So you decided it after listening to me about the long ears?" "Well," Zhu Wangming glanced at the top of her head, "I have never been in contact with the experimental subjects, and I don't know their specific conditions after the experiment. I only heard a few words from the researchers who participated in the operation, so I know some symptoms that the experimental subjects will have after the operation, such as disordered gene sequencing, changes in appearance, and the growth of animal ears and tails." After listening to this, Wen Jiu fell into deep thought again. If she guessed correctly, the operation mentioned by Zhu Wangming might be the so-called gene fusion. This concept exists in modern times, but I don't know what the gene fusion here is like. But she still has a question. That is, after she came to this world, she took over the original owner's memory in its entirety, but there was no part of it that was used as an experimental subject. Was it because the original owner was too young to remember it when he was the experimental subject, or was it because someone erased this part of the original owner's memory? Of course, there is another possibility. After a person suffers from excessive trauma, a self-protection mechanism will appear, allowing his brain to seal the painful memory that caused the trauma. In layman's terms, it is selective amnesia. Unless the trauma point is touched again, it is difficult to recall this memory again. After thinking about it, Wen Jiu felt that the last possibility was the greatest. But she didn't know what the trauma point was, and she didn't have the idea of self-abuse, so she could only put this question aside for the time being. Later, I accidentally ran into an experimental subject escaping from the observation room. The miserable appearance was really hard for me to describe. So not long after, I found an opportunity to leave the project, but the scene was really shocking. It can be said that I can't forget it until now. It happened that I met your mother Yu at that time. She wanted to leave the 3rd military region and return to her hometown, so I came here with her. After speaking, Zhu Wangming saw Wen Jiu sitting there in deep thought and took the initiative to clean up the table. Today's second update has also been delivered. Hehe 030. Chapter 258 You Are Not a Person 3. It was also when he was cleaning the table that Zhu Wangming discovered that there was a plate of scrambled eggs with chives standing alone. The main reason was that the Boston garlic cream mushroom stew chicken were so fragrant that he subconsciously ignored the plate of scrambled eggs with chives, which was also pleasing to the eye, but not as tempting as the other two dishes. The dish had been sitting there for so long that it had already gone cold, but Zhu Wangming was reluctant to throw it away. On the one hand, he knew that the dishes made by Wen Jiu were super delicious, and it would be a waste to throw it away. On the other hand, he knew that Wen Jiu cherished food very much. If he threw the dishes away in front of him, he would definitely be reported and beaten up by Rumen. Just thinking about that scene, he felt a chill. So Zhu Wangming put the dirty dishes aside first, and then silently took the chopsticks to eat the cold scrambled eggs with chives. Although it was no longer hot and a little cold, the tender and crispy chives and fluffy eggs still had a special fresh and fragrant aroma when they entered his mouth. The crisp texture of the leek contrasted sharply with the soft and fluffy eggs. When chewing, you could only smell the fresh fragrance of the leek and the faint aroma of the eggs. Wen Jiu had just come out of her contemplative state when she saw Zhu Wangming eating with a plate. She was speechless at the sight. The other party was indeed not a reliable adult. "Uncle Zhu, are you the reincarnation of a starving ghost?" she complained mercilessly. The atmosphere just now was so serious and heavy. "Shouldn't you have thought about it carefully? As a result, I saw you eating in the blink of an eye, and you ate 2.5 of the 3 dishes by yourself. As a man, you should learn to be frugal and manage the family, don't you understand?" Her complaints made Zhu Wangming feel inexplicably familiar, as if Rumen had said it before. When he thought of Rumen, he unconsciously wanted to maintain a good image. So he resisted the urge to eat the remaining scrambled eggs with leek and put the plate on the table. Wen Jiu glanced at the almost empty plate of fried leek and eggs and immediately held his forehead and said, "Uncle Zhu, you make me feel that you have been hungry for a long time. And I don't want you to stay with Teacher Yu anymore. I'm afraid that Teacher Yu can't afford to support you. Go away, go away." Zhu Wangming, who was ridiculed again, was a little helpless. "Stop making fun of me. Let's talk about something serious." After that, he put all the dirty dishes into the dishwasher, but these dishes were lent to them by Nurse Liu. Out of courtesy, they had to wait until the dishes were washed and put back in place before leaving the kitchen. So Zhu Wangming returned to the table and sat down and said, "I went to deal with some things in the afternoon. If nothing unexpected happens, your mother you will be fine soon. After all, there is nothing abnormal in your re-examination report, and they can't find any other mistakes. So when she comes back, they can take you back to the college for a makeup exam." He said this very easily, but in fact, the effort behind it was unspeakable. You have to know that the people over there have been trying to find fault with them for a long time. In addition, the higher-ups have been pressing step by step, and they are dissatisfied that only 3047 Academy does not cooperate with the seedling plan, so it is still very difficult to handle this matter. If Rumen's modification of the information is discovered, not only will a lot of their people be dug out, but Wen Jiu will also be selected by the higher-ups to be sent to the training base. In short, there are too many people and facts that will be involved. But in fact, they not only modified Wen Jiu's information, but in recent years, in order to prevent the higher-ups from picking students away, they have also been modifying the information of those talented students. After all, that incident happened 3 years ago, so the higher-ups can't say much about 3047 Academy's behavior of trying every means to protect students, but this does not mean that those people will not secretly bear grudges. Now the time is gradually ripe, and a dual system superpower has appeared again. Therefore, those people are ready to move and create trouble for them everywhere. By the way, Uncle Zhu, you haven't told me about the 2 empty bottles. Wen Jiu suddenly changed the subject, and Zhu Wangming almost didn't react. But he quickly replied, "It was just a little trick. Those people know that I'm good at researching and mixing medicines, so they will naturally wonder if your re-examination results are caused by my tampering with the medicine. So I did as they wish." He shrugged his shoulders and showed a gloating look. "Don't worry about this. I'm still very confident in medicine." Zhu Wangming raised his eyebrows at Wen Jiu. "Maybe you will find a little surprise when you wake up after a sleep." However, Wen Jiu just said with disgust, "Just talk, don't make such a greasy expression, okay?" The unreliable adult male who was complained about against stood there stiffly. He didn't understand why little Wen Jiu could always make him unable to refute. Can't this kid talk less? But this idea can only remain in his mind. Then when the dishwasher washed the dishes, they put the dishes back to their original positions and put the stickers on them and then slowly walked out of the kitchen. It was already very late and Zhu Wangming left the hospital after sending Wen Jiu back to the ward. But before he left, he specifically reminded him not to open the door to anyone at night. Wen Jiu felt like she was in a haunted hospital, saying that she must not open the door at night, otherwise there would be ghosts. But she hoped that there were really ghosts here, so that she could catch two to play cards with her. After all, staying in the hospital is really boring. Wen Jiu was really tired after tossing around all day, so she took a hot shower and didn't even bother to dry her hair thoroughly and just got into bed and fell asleep. The hospital should have been silent late at night, but suddenly there was a knock on the door. Wen Jiu, who was awakened by the sound, was very sleepy. She opened her eyes drowsily, and the knock on the door seemed to come from outside her door. Looking at the electronic clock on the wall again, it was 3 o'clock in the morning. Who would come knocking on the door to find her at this time? Just when she was thinking about whether to continue sleeping or get up to fight the ghost, the knocking stopped. Wen Jiu thought that this ghost was quite sensible and she was sleepy at the moment, so she let him go. As a result, just as she lay down again and wrapped herself in the quilt, the weird knocking sound rang again. This made her really unhappy. Being a ghost also requires some quality, right? Knocking on the door in the middle of the night and not letting people sleep. This kind of ghost must be particularly annoying when it is alive. So when Jiu got up from the bed angrily, she always kept her amulet with her and she could beat the ghost to tears without relying on the amulet. But just in case, she was ready to fight with her supernatural power at any time. Because there was a cat's eye at the door, she first leaned over the cat's eye and looked out. Oh my god. It would be nothing if she didn't look at it, but she felt a little creepy when she looked at it. The person standing outside was actually Zhao Zha, and she seemed to have noticed her presence. She raised her head under the dim light and gave a stiff smile to the cat's eye. Chapter 259, Midnight 1. Zhao Zha was still wearing her nurse uniform, but her hair was a little messy. The faint cold white light outside the corridor shone on her body, and with that stiff smile, everything looked weird and terrifying. If it was someone else, seeing this scene at 3 in the morning, they would definitely be scared and at a loss. But when Jiu only froze for a moment and then came back to her senses, she silently found a few pieces of paper, wet them with water, and then pasted them on the cat's eye to prevent Zhao Zha from peeping from there. Because the cat's eye of this store is not an electronic device, it is just the most ordinary lens type. After covering the cat's eye, Wen Jiu walked towards the bed and prepared to continue sleeping. As soon as she turned around and took a few steps, she heard a rustling sound, as if Zhao Zha was trying to unlock the door. In order to facilitate the doctor's rounds and the nurse's work, the door of the ward is usually closed but not locked. But when Jiu thought of Zhu Wangming's instructions before he left, so he locked the door specially. She was not afraid of a supernatural story, but it was hard to say whether someone would do something while she was asleep. In this case, she had to take precautions. Zhu Wangming said that it would be fine as long as she didn't open the door. When Jiu guessed that he must have taken the key away. Otherwise, Zhao Zha would take out a key, and it would be the same, whether she locked the door or not. Zhao Wen, you are still awake, right? Zhao Zha stood outside the door, and twisted the wire for a long time, but couldn't pry the door open. Although the various facilities of the 3047 hospital were far inferior to those of private hospitals, even the door locks of the wards were still the simplest key locks. But the security of this door lock was still acceptable, at least it could not be pried open without a key. Zhao Wen, I'm Sister Zhao. Dr. Zhu asked me to see how you are. Can you open the door quickly? When Jiu lay on the bed and ignored the somewhat shrill female voice outside. She just wanted to sleep. Whether the person outside was Zhao Zha or what the other party was doing, it had nothing to do with her. Anyway, it was impossible for the other party to come in unless they violently broke the lock or destroyed the door. So when Jiu wrapped himself tightly with a quilt and the sound outside the door immediately became weak. Zhao Wen, are you asleep? If when Jiu had observed for a while longer through the peephole, he would have found that Zalzai had been trying her best to control herself and not let her body tremble too much. After the voice fell, the corridor returned to silence again. Zalzai hated Wen Jiu and Zhu Wangming at this time. If it weren't for these two people, how could she be punished by Zhu Qinggan? She raised her hand tremblingly and rolled up her sleeves, and purple bruises covered her arms. The tasks assigned to her by the superiors failed again and again. If the task tonight failed again, she would be forcibly taken back to the base to receive more severe punishment. Thinking of this, she began to tremble violently because of fear. In fact, the task tonight was very simple, which was to find a way to enter the ward to examine Wen Jiu again. However, this time the examination was no longer using the instruments in the hospital, but using special instruments specially sent by the superiors. She had planned to come before Wen Jiu fell asleep and then check him again in the name of Zhu Wangming. But just when she was about to take action, she was called by the furious Zhu Qinggan. It was then that she realized that the 2 empty bottles she handed over did not detect any problems. But this was not a big deal. After all, Zhu Wangming was always cautious in doing things, and it was normal for her not to get anything. But the problem was the surveillance video that Dr. Wang called, which clearly recorded that it was almost noon when she accompanied Zhu Wangming into Wen Jiu's ward for rounds. The next scene was that she pushed the cart to the garbage storage room. Before opening the door of the garbage storage room, she squatted down and searched on the second layer of the cart for a while, then took out 2 empty bottles and threw them into the cardboard box outside the door. It seemed that she was afraid of being discovered, so she took some waste paper to cover them. All these actions were different from her mission report, but the surveillance video was clear and there was no sign of tampering, which really made her speechless. Her explanation for herself made Zhu Qinggan so angry that he took action on the spot and punished her for suspected betrayal of the organization. Therefore, if she fails to complete this task tonight, Zhu Qinggan will report her for suspected betrayal and then take her back to the base to accept the inhumane torture. You should know that the punishment for traitors in the base is to be skinned alive if not dead. Zalzai lay on the door and listened for a while, and there was no movement in the room. She wanted to persuade Wen Jiu to cooperate with her, but this dead child was much more difficult than she thought. Since he was unwilling to open the door for her, she had to do it herself. With a creak, Zalzai tiptoed and pushed open the simple wooden door. What's the use of Zhu Wangming taking the key to the nurse's station? She had secretly backed up the keys to all the wards. It's a pity that the door locks of the office are all smart locks that need to verify fingerprints and irises. She just used wire to twist the lock cord just to confuse Wen Jiu. After all, it would be easier for her to do it after the other party let down his guard. But the most important thing was that she wanted to see the kid crying because of her fear. She didn't think that a kid who had only been in school for a few months could beat her in terms of force. Even the so-called dual-powered person couldn't fight against a level 4 power person like her with a level 1 power. Zalzai walked towards the bed with a smile. She stared at the bulge on the bed. She thought Wen Jiu must be curled up in it and sleeping soundly. She didn't know how he would cry and beg her later. She didn't like children in the first place, and Wen Jiu, who was disobedient and difficult, was exactly the kind she disliked and hated the most. The ward was very quiet, with only shallow breathing and footsteps that Zalzai suppressed to an almost inaudible level. When she walked towards the bed, she didn't notice the faint movement hidden in the darkness at all. The dark green vines, as thick as arms, crawled slowly like snakes, silently following behind Zalzai, waiting for an opportunity to move. Finally reaching the bed, Zalzai's eyes flashed with joy and excitement. She gently raised her right hand and spread it, and a small whirlwind appeared in her palm. As a level 4 psychic, she always felt that it was a waste of talent for her to lurk in the hospital as a chess piece. Why can other people with the same level 4 psychic lurk in various colleges to be teachers, but she can only be a small nurse in this hospital? Not only do she have to do all kinds of heavy and complicated work, but she also has to be bullied by such a kid. The more she thought about it, the angrier she became, and the whirlwind in her hand gradually grew bigger. Anyway, the mission did not say that Wen Jiu could not be harmed, not to mention that a small lesson would not have any impact. Thinking of this, Zhao Ziya's eyes flashed with a trace of cruelty. Then she threw the whirlwind towards the bull, but saw that after the quilt was broken, there was nothing else, except the cotton on the bed. Today's first update. I will delete the ramblings. Which unlucky guy is taking an exam today? Oh, it's me Kak. Because today is an exam plus review, the second and third updates will be made up later. But I finished the exam in the morning, and I will post it when I finish writing on the way home in the afternoon. Please forgive me, little angels. I'm a fool who has no manuscripts Kak. I can write more during the holidays without classes, and I will try my best to add more updates then. Thank you for your support and understanding. 030. Chapter 260. Midnight 2. Where is Wen Jiu? Where did Wen Jiu go? Zhao Ziya, realizing something was wrong, tensed up instantly. A whirlwind formed in her hand again, and she began to search in a defensive posture with a slight lean. However, before she could take a few steps, a cold and strange touch on her ankle made her tremble all over. After all, she was a person who had received many years of training. Even though she had not fought for a long time in the hospital, Zhao Ziya still reacted quickly. She waved her hand and smashed 2 whirlwinds on the ground, and the slippery and cold touch instantly dissipated. Looking down at her feet again, it turned out to be just vines made by the wood element. Ziya Wen, where are you hiding? Zhao Ziya knew that Wen Jiu's abilities were wood and fire, so she could guess who made these vines without thinking too much. She just didn't expect that the other party would dare to hide, and even wanted to use vines to attack her. But it doesn't matter, she will soon find this disobedient child and teach him a lesson. Zhao Ziya curved her eyebrows and put on her usual business style smile, slowly searching around the room. She first checked under the bed and in the closet, where people were most likely to hide, and then went into the bathroom to search carefully, but she still couldn't find Wen Jiu. In the dark, Wen Jiu just watched the other party searching around the room in a daze. In fact, her position was not difficult to find, and it could even be said that anyone with eyes could find it. But it was obvious that Zhao Ziya had a pair of useless eyes. Wen Jiu glanced at the electronic clock on the wall. It was almost 4 o'clock in the morning. She was so sleepy that she could fall asleep by closing her eyes, but Zhao Ziya was still looking around the room. Seeing this scene, she felt that she was about to lose her patience in ambushing people, and she really wanted to go back to bed. Hey, classmate Wen, where are you hiding? Come out quickly, please, Zhao Ziya said to herself with a smile, while her hand formed a whirlwind and continued to search. She might think that her appearance can bring pressure to others, but Wen Jiu, who was squatting by the door, just wanted to laugh. What kind of supernatural story is this? It's just a comedy movie at best. Wen Jiu originally planned to continue sleeping after putting the cat's eye on her face. However, she felt an inexplicable tension in her heart just a few seconds after she covered herself with the quilt. After tossing and turning several times, she finally got up from the bed. Then she stuffed a pillow under the quilt to make it look like someone was in bed, and then she walked to the wall near the door and squatted down. Wen Jiu originally thought that if Zhao Ziya really broke the door violently, she would attack directly. But she didn't expect that the other party would use the most normal way to unlock the door with a key. When she heard the sound of the lock tongue clicking, Wen Jiu just wanted to catch Zhu Wanming and scold him 300 times. Didn't they say that it would be fine as long as she didn't open the door? But if the enemy had the key, what was the point of locking the door? So when Zhao Ziya pushed the door open, Wen Jiu was ready to attack at any time. But what she didn't expect was that the other party didn't even check the environment when he entered the door, but went straight to the bed. Just like a big gold brick was placed on the bed, Zhao Ziya just stared at the bed without looking around. So Wen Jiu just squatted beside the door, controlling the vines to follow behind the other party. She wanted to seize the opportunity and attack directly, but seeing that Zhao Ziya was also a superpower, this made her a little interested. She wanted to know what level of superpower Zhao Ziya was, so she used the vines to test it a little, and she was also ready to fight directly. But the other party just attacked to destroy the vines, without even looking back at the door. In the long search that followed, Zhao Ziya never looked at the door, which made Wen Jiu speechless. Sister, you have time to drill under the bed and look through the closet, but you don't have time to look behind you, right? And she is so big that anyone with eyes can see it. Seeing that Zhao Zai was about to drill under the bed for the fourth time, Wen Jiu, who was squatting like a mushroom, couldn't bear to watch and wait any longer. So she took advantage of the moment when Zhao Zai squatted down and directly hit a fireball. The temperature around suddenly rose, and Zhao Zai's heart was alarmed. She rolled over and dodged the fireball. It was at this time that she noticed that Wen Jiu was standing by the door. "Zio Wen, you are very good at hiding." She immediately stood up and prepared to attack. The ward is so small, and you know how to use people's inertia to hide yourself behind the door. You are worthy of being a good seedling selected by the higher-ups. You can play psychological games with me for so long. Wen Jiu was speechless after hearing these words, and even the corners of his mouth twitched a little. Who is playing psychological games with you and using people's inertia? It's obviously you who are blind, okay? And when he praised her, he didn't forget to raise himself, as if their IQs were at the same level. If nothing else, at least her eyes are not blind. So Wen Jiu said with some disgust, "Sister, I have been standing by the door waiting for you. I didn't know that you looked around, but refused to look here, so I think, if you don't need your eyes, you can consider donating them." Zhao Zai was suddenly complained about like this, and she felt very angry. It turned out that she had been walking around in the room for a long time, and the other party was standing by the door watching the show, playing tricks on her like a fool. But this was really a misunderstanding of Wen Jiu. She was simply forced to watch the show. How could she know that Zhao Zai could be so blind? Since you came out by yourself, don't blame me for not knowing the severity of my attack. Zhao Zai's expression became more and more ferocious. As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly shot 2 gusts of wind in the direction of Wen Jiu. The oncoming fierce airflow blew Wen Jiu's hair, and she quickly dodged and summoned vines to attack Zhao Zai. The gust of wind that hit the air left 2 deep marks on the wall. White dust flew in the air, making the already dim room even more difficult to see. The dark green vines took the opportunity to wrap around Zhao Zai's ankles and tripped her. Then Wen Jiu shot another fireball, and the hot flames suddenly ignited at the corner of Zhao Zai's clothes. But she still didn't take these attacks seriously, and only raised the corners of her mouth in sarcasm to summon a stronger gust of wind. The strong airflow extinguished the flames that had not yet had time to rise, and cut off the thick vines wrapped around her ankles. Zhao Zai sat up with half-closed eyes. "Zio Wen, you have been in school for a short time. I'm afraid you don't know the level difference between psychics. It is difficult to advance to the next level of psychics, so the psychic damage of each level is very different. You see, it is very difficult for you to use a level 1 psychic to fight a level 2 psychic. Now you are facing a level 4 psychic like me. You won't even have a chance to win and survive." After speaking, she raised her hand and let it fall. Unlike the whirlwind that condensed into a ball before, this time it was a wind blade as fast as lightning. Today's second update. Woohoo, Xiao Bei delivery is late due to force majeure. Cac. Thank you little angels for your support and love. Bobo030. Chapter 261, Midnight 3. This move is called Wind Blade, and only people who have reached the 4th level of gold type superpowers can learn to use it. The airflow is condensed into a blade, and then the imperceptible metal particles are integrated into it. It seems to have no lethality, but the wind blade that is hit is like a real blade, sharp enough to break everything. The higher the level of superpower skills, the stronger the power. Although the wind blade condensed by the 4th level superpower is far from the realm of breaking everything, its power should not be underestimated. I didn't want to use this move on you, but you are too annoying. Zhao Zai confidently hit the wind blade, her eyes full of joy and determination. Even if she is a dual type superpower, the gap between the superpower levels is very large. She can completely crush the opponent with the power of the 4th level superpower. The sharp wind blade attacked Wen Jiu, but just when it was about to hit her, it was suddenly blocked by an invisible barrier, leaving no trace. How is this possible? Zhao Zai looked at Wen Jiu in surprise. Then she sent out another wind blade, but just like the previous scene, It disappeared without a trace before it reached the opponent. Is your level 4 ability filled with water? How come you can't even blow the wind? Wen Jiu stood there with his arms folded. She looked disgusted at this time, as if she was dissatisfied with watching a poor performance. Zhao Zha, who was ridiculed, felt furious and sent out several wind blades in succession, but did not cause any damage to the opponent. Wen Jiu only spoke again. Sister Zhao, are you still going to fight? If you don't fight, I will fight. After she finished speaking, she moved a few steps and closed the door of the wood heavily. Before the door closed, a beam of light happened to fall into the dim room, and Zhao Zha could only see it clearly at this time. The faint green light formed a barrier, which blocked Wen Jiu steadily. How could you possibly use a barrier? This is clearly a skill that only a 3rd level wood type psychic can learn. However, what surprised Zhao Zha the most was not that the other party could use a barrier, but that the barrier could actually block her attacks repeatedly. You have to know that even a 2nd level barrier can only block 2 4th level attacks at most, and after the barrier is broken, it will cause a short-term mental impact on the user, and it will take at least a while to continue to condense the barrier. So how did Wen Jiu do it? Zhao Zha calmed down and thought that maybe Zhu Wangming gave the other party something to defend himself. But no matter what kind of self-defense item it is, there is a limit to its use. Perhaps the number of times or the protection value. In short, there is no unsolvable solution, and she can always find a way to break it. Thinking of this, Zhao Zha held her breath and concentrated on increasing the lethality of the wind blade. Although doing so will consume more energy, it doesn't matter as long as the barrier can be broken to attack Wen Jiu. So a wind blade that was more violent than before fell towards Wen Jiu at lightning speed, but she still held her arms and did not move. However, this time the wind blade was quite powerful and successfully shattered the green barrier in front of her. Do you think that you can withstand my attack with something to protect yourself? Don't you see the gap between us? Zhao Zha said as she prepared to attack again, wanting to take down the opponent in one fell swoop. Wen Jiu yawned, and it was obvious that she was very sleepy at the moment. She smacked her lips and a barrier formed in front of her again. Seeing this, Zhao Zha couldn't help but feel a little confused. She didn't notice that Wen Jiu used any protective items, nor did she use her supernatural power to condense a barrier, but the barrier suddenly appeared. I didn't realize that Zhu Wangming valued you so much, Zhao Zha said with a bit of sarcasm in her words. It seems that he gave you a lot of good things to protect you, right? Wen Jiu didn't speak, but just stared at her with the look of looking at a fool. But at this time, the dark clouds outside the window covered the bright moon, making the already dim room dark. The fear brought by the darkness made Zhao Zha a little frightened, and she had consumed too much energy before. So her condition was not as good as before. In order to prevent Wen Jiu from slowly exhausting her remaining energy, Zhao Zha decided to increase her attack again and hurt the opponent while breaking the barrier so that she could successfully complete the task. But before she could condense a new wind blade, a wave of hot air hit her face. 3 fireballs attacked her at the same time, and she could only retreat and dodge. Just as she was dodging the fireballs, countless vines came from all directions and wrapped around her limbs, waist and neck. She didn't even see how Wen Jiu launched these attacks. Only the pain of being bound by the vines continued to come. After a while, Zhao Zha was tied up by the vines and couldn't move. Wen Jiu then slowly stepped forward, yawned and asked, "Tell me, what do you want to do by coming here so late? Are you planning to steal something? Or do you want to sneak attack and kill me?" When she said the word kill, a silver light flashed quickly from her grey blue eyes. But Zhao Zha was struggling and didn't see it. When she heard Wen Jiu's question, she smiled and said, "Isn't it normal for me to come to the ward for rounds as a nurse? But you, attacking medical staff is really vicious. Who of us is more vicious?" Wen Jiu chuckled, "I'm acting in self-defense. Sister Zhao, how old are you? Why haven't you learned federal law well yet?" As she spoke, she stretched out her hand, and a cluster of orange-red flames illuminated Zhao Zha's embarrassed posture. "What on earth did you use to withstand my attacks again and again?" Zhao Zha saw that Wen Jiu's expression was calm and even his hair was not messed up. She thought about her own embarrassed appearance tied by vines. She just felt that her defense was broken. So she cursed Wen Jiu a lot of dirty words, both to vent her unwillingness and to fear that the other party would do something else. After she finished her hysterical roar, Wen Jiu slowly said, "Dr. Zhu didn't give me anything. The barrier just now was created by me using my superpowers." Zhao Zaya was stunned by these words. She stared at him in disbelief. "How is it possible? I didn't even see you use superpowers. You were standing there without even moving a finger." Heh. Wen Jiu raised his eyebrows slightly and moved the flame closer to Zhao Zaya. The rising temperature made her sweat continuously. Just when Zhao Zaya thought she would be burned by the flames, she heard Wen Jiu's voice slowly falling. "Sister Zhao, do you think this is a magical world? Once you drop your wand, you can't cast spells and can only fight. But I still have to thank you for helping me successfully upgrade to the second level supernatural power. You just hang here and wait for dawn. I'm going to sleep." The third update of the day. The little author is huffing and puffing on his tricycle to deliver the update. The 3 updates ordered by the little angels have all been delivered. Please check them out, little angels. 030. Fighting and conspiracy are so hard to write. ORZ. I want to go back to happy food cack. Chapter 262. Getting ready to open a store 1. The next day, when Wen Jiu woke up, it was almost noon again, and it was still the familiar scene. Zhu Wangming was sitting in front of her bed peeling an apple. Seeing that she woke up, he cut off a piece and handed it to her. Cruel. Wen Jiu suddenly turned over and snatched the big apple from Zhu Wangming's hand, leaving only the small piece for him. She took a bite angrily, and it made a crunching sound. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that she was very angry at this time, and the culprit who angered her was still eating the apple happily. However, Zhu Wangming only had a small piece of apple in his hand, so he ate it up quickly. "How did you sleep last night?" He twisted a tissue and came over to wipe his hands. Wen Jiu was so angry that she quickly finished the apple and threw the apple core at Zhu Wangming. Seeing this, Zhu Wangming scratched his head and said, "I just wanted to train your vigilance. Besides, Zhao Zaya's kung fu is not enough to hurt you, right? Besides, you successfully advanced by fighting with her last night, which shows that my decision is quite correct." But his voice became smaller and smaller, and it was almost inaudible at the end. "Where is Zhao Zaya?" Wen Jiu looked around. "Also, how did you know that my supernatural power was advanced? I asked someone to send her away this morning. I guess you won't see her for 10 or 8 years. Zhu Wangming regained his righteous appearance and sat upright, as if he had made some great contribution. Hearing his words, Wen Jiu asked with a puzzled look, "What do you mean? I saw you wrapped her up like that with vines, so I knew you had advanced to the second level. But your vines are really hard to destroy, so I called the police to come over. While I got rid of the vines, I also reported Zhao Zaya for child abuse." He only said this, but Wen Jiu understood it completely. According to federal law, she should be sentenced to 10 years. But you can rest assured that I have all the evidence here. At most, Zhao Zaya will not admit her crime and choose a lawyer to defend her in court, which may involve you as a witness. Although Zhu Wangming wanted to get rid of Zhao Zaya with his own means, the other party was a living person and a hidden chess piece over there. If she suddenly disappeared in the hospital, she would definitely be used by the other side to make a fuss. If it gets to that level, it will be even more troublesome. It is better to take legal means to make the people over there helpless. Zhao Zaya is just an insignificant little hidden chess piece, and it is impossible for the other side to help her escape. What's more, she has now been labeled as a suspected traitor by Zhu Qinggan, and it's good enough that the people over there don't add fuel to her fire. "Oh," Wen Jiu responded after listening, "so why didn't you take the key last night? And you asked me to close the door and sleep well. Are you afraid that I won't die fast enough?" She got angry when she thought about how she didn't fall asleep until after 4 in the morning, and Zhao Zaya broke her quilt and pillow, so she could only sleep in the cotton pile with the only pillow left. This feeling reminded her of when she lived in an abandoned bus with no food or warm clothes and had to feel the attack of the cold wind every day. It was really terrible. I swear I really took the key, Zhu Wangming explained quickly when he saw Wen Jiu was angry again. Yes, I did something wrong. I should have explained the matter to you in advance. It's all my fault that you didn't sleep well all night. But you believe me, I also let you face Zhao Zai alone, because I know your strength. Besides, let's talk about it again. Look, you have advanced after this fight. What a bargain. However, when Jiu just said coldly, then I beat you up and let you advance. Okay. This dialogue and battle ended with Zhu Wangming's defeat. He solemnly promised the victorious Wen Jiu that he would never keep the other party in the dark again, and transferred 50,000 star coins as compensation. Wen Jiu was a boring mushroom in the hospital for the next few days, until Yu Rumen came to pick her up from the hospital, and took her back to school for the makeup exam, and then took her out of the mushroom state. She stayed in the hospital for these days, and the other first year students had finished their exams, and went home for the holidays. So naturally, she didn't see Kaioshishi and Zikingayu in the academy, but she made an appointment with them to come and help her when she was preparing to open her shop. The makeup exam was no different from the normal final exam. The scores of the previous combat exam had been recorded, so Wen Jiu only needed to finish the remaining subjects. Perhaps because she had dealt with Sun Mao and Zhao Zai, her makeup exam went quite smoothly. After 2 days of exams, she went home happily. When she left the academy, she didn't forget the bacon and sausages she had hung on the rooftop, and the jar of pickles in the kitchen. These things were quite heavy when added together. If Yu Rumen hadn't driven her, it would have been inconvenient for her to take all of them back. Wen Jiu originally invited Yu Rumen to live with him, but the other party had other things to deal with, so she only handed her the keys to the store and various electronic contracts and left. She had bought all the daily necessities before, and there was a robot responsible for cleaning. So Wen Jiu happily stayed at home for 2 days after returning home. If she hadn't thought about not wasting the store's lease and the rent she paid, she would have wanted to stay at home for a week. Adult tickets are 200 star coins. When Jiu stood blankly at the ticket office of the scenic spot, she bought a children's ticket last time, so why did she have to buy an adult ticket this time? Suddenly she had to spend so many star coins, and she ran to the place where her height was measured in disbelief. You don't know until you measure it, and you find that you are actually over 1.5 meters tall. This should have been a happy thing. After all, she has been looking forward to growing taller for a long time. But now she has to pay more for the ticket because of her height, and no matter how she thinks about it, she still feels a little uncomfortable. And she will come to the scenic spot every day to open a store in the future. Does she have to pay 200 star coins for the ticket every day? Thinking of this, Wen Jiu quickly opened the light curtain panel to check the information of the store. She flipped through it for a long time and finally found what she wanted. Hello, I'm from the commercial street of Donghu Scenic Area, and this is my information certificate. After the staff checked and verified it, they let her into the scenic area. It rained heavily last night. The air after the rain was both fresh and damp. A light mist permeated the calm surface of East Lake, which gave it a hazy fairyland feel. Occasionally, a few birds foraging flew low, startling the furry creatures wandering by the lake, and causing them to hide everywhere. The weeping willows by the lake swayed gently in the breeze. The cold season had passed, and the temperature began to rise, so a few wildflowers quietly bloomed. A fascinating picture was created. Today's first update is delivered on time. Hey, thank you for the support of the little angels. 030 Jiu is finally on vacation. The little author is also on vacation equals W equals. Chapter 263 ready to open the store too. When Jiu walked slowly on the road, and she had to say that the scenery of East Lake was indeed pleasant. It was only 9 o'clock, but there were already many tourists strolling here. She walked and observed the tourists. Most of them were middle-aged and elderly people. Occasionally, there were a few young tourists who were just jogging on the roadside in sportswear. As a stingy person who saves money whenever possible, Wen Jiu really couldn't understand people who spend 200 star coins every day to run. However, it is a good thing that the traffic volume of East Lake Scenic Area is high, so that she can open a store and make money happily. Wen Jiu observed and observed until she came to the entrance of a commercial street, but this place is more like a commercial district than a commercial street. Because this area actually has several streets, but everyone likes to call it a commercial street, so those who have never been here will mistakenly think that there is only one street here. Yu Ruman and Wen Jiu thought so before they came, but after they came here to visit, they knew that this is actually a commercial district. And Lao Chu's shop is located on Street A in the commercial district, which is the outermost street. It is easier to open a business than the inner streets. However, there are always many tourists coming to the East Lake Scenic area, so most of the shops are not worried about not having customers. Perhaps because it is still early, there are not many tourists in the commercial area. Many shops have closed their doors and have not yet opened for business. Only a few restaurants have their doors open. If you glance over, you can see the employees in the shop slowly cleaning. This is the second time Wen Jiu has come to Lao Chu's shop. The door is still closed, but the wooden sign hanging on the door seems to have been corroded for some reason. She found the key to unlock the outermost roller shutter door and pulled it up, and then twisted it in the lock hole on the glass door for a long time. The lock should have not been lubricated for a long time, so it is particularly difficult to unlock and open the door. After fiddling with the glass door for a long time, when Jiu finally saw the full picture of the food house. She had seen the decoration of the food house on Star Network before, but after all, it had not been open for a long time, so there was a thick layer of dust on the ground and the tables and chairs, and a clear palm print would be left if you put your hand on it. When Jiu covered her mouth and nose with her sleeves before walking inside to continue observing. Although there was a lot of dust, the tables and chairs were arranged neatly. It can be seen that the quality of these tables and chairs is quite good, and she does not need to replace them herself. In addition to the dust, there is not even a stain on the snow white walls of the store. It can be seen that Lao Chu is still very clean and is carefully maintaining the store. It's a pity that the other party is in poor health and really needs a good rest, but Wen Jiu will help to continue to maintain it here. After all, she is the new owner of this store now. After observing the business area, Wen Jiu walked towards the kitchen again. The pots, pans, and utensils are very complete and are equipped with 2 dishwashers. In short, everything is available, and she doesn't need to buy anything extra. After this stroll, Wen Jiu felt that she only needed to clean and buy ingredients. So she decisively turned on the light screen panel and a phone call flashed. "Hello, Zikingayu, what are you doing? Sleeping?" Zikingayu seemed to be awakened by her phone call, and her voice was a little sticky. "Sister Jiu, why are you looking for me so early in the morning?" When Jiu thought that he was awake, and the other party had agreed to come here to be an employee. She talked a lot, and Zikingayu was stunned. "Anyway, get up now. I don't want employees who like to sleep in my store." After that, she hung up the phone and sent a message to Kaioshishi. Girls, of course, need to get more beauty sleep. But what surprised her was that Kaioshishi actually replied in seconds and said that she would leave right away. One shouted that she wanted to sleep in, and the other was very active and took the initiative to go to work, which formed a sharp contrast. This made Wen Jiu's heart tilt towards Kaioshishi again. She decided to leave the cleaning to Zikingayu later, and Kaioshishi would only be responsible for arranging the tables and chairs. Just when she was about to close the light screen panel, she caught a glimpse of the name that had not been ticking for a long time. The handsome boy had not come to see her for a while, but when Jiu treated him like an ordinary customer, she guessed that he was too busy in real life, so she didn't think much about it. Then when Jiu saw that it was still early and it would take some time for Zikingayu and Kaioshishi to come, and she didn't plan to open the store today, so she closed the door and walked out of the scenic area. She thought that she could go to the nearby shopping mall supermarket to buy some ingredients, and after cleaning, she could just make lunch and try out the stove and the kitchen. As for the ingredients to be used after opening the store, she still planned to buy them in the Star Network supermarket. After all, the Star Network supermarket is a super large supermarket, and it often offers discounts and buy a few get a few free activities. The more you buy, the more you save, which is very suitable for her to buy large quantities of ingredients. but now she only needs to buy a small amount of ingredients. So Wen Jiu simply went to the supermarket in the mall. It just so happened that the supermarket on the mall side was doing a promotion and every 500 star coins could be reduced by 50. So Wen Jiu picked and chose for a long time, and in addition to the ingredients for cooking, she also bought a lot of seasonings. In order to get 500 to use the discount, she also took a few cheap aprons and towels, and then picked up a bottle of detergent and a pair of rubber gloves. In the end, she successfully bought so many things at the price of 450 star coins. Because he bought too much, Wen Jiu could only call Zikingayu to ask him to pick him up at the mall. Why did you buy so many things? Zikingayu was shocked when he saw the large and small bags piled on the ground. But he was not shocked that Wen Jiu could buy so much, but that he was shocked that the other party was willing to spend so much money. You know, Wen Jiu is a person who can save every penny, and when it comes to buying things, he follows the principle of not buying if he can. Wen Jiu just said, except for meat, all the ingredients are on a buy 2 get 1 free promotion, and these aprons and towels are the cheapest on the shelf. Don't worry, I've touched the towel and the material is okay. The dishwashing liquid over there is buy a large bottle and get a small one for free. I wanted to take 2 more bottles, but I found that the discount at Stonet supermarket is even bigger, so I'll buy it at Stonet supermarket later. I think you will need rubber gloves. After all, I didn't buy a robot, and we still have to clean manually. And with the gloves, it's exactly 500 star coins, so you can save 50 when you get a full amount. She nagged on for a while, but Zikingayu only understood one sentence. When it comes to saving money, Wen Jiu is still the best. The second update of the day has also been delivered, please check it. Little Angels 030. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 264. Getting ready to open a store 3. When Zikingayu and Wen Jiu arrived at the door of the food house, Kyoshi had already been waiting here. However, she was not unhappy that the two came together, because she knew that Wen Jiu only used Zikingayu as a tool for moving goods. After all, among the 3 of them, only Zikingayu had a wisdom ring that could store items. Be prepared first. If nothing unexpected happens, we will have to spend half a day cleaning. Wen Jiu suddenly said this before opening the door, and Zikingayu and Kyoshi were a little confused. It shouldn't take half a day to clean up, right? Both of them thought that Wen Jiu was bluffing them, but when the rolling door was pulled and the glass door was pushed, the choking dust that came in really opened their eyes. Although they had worked in the kitchen of 3047 College for several months, it was the first time they saw such a scene. Especially when the bright and dazzling sunlight shone in from outside, the flying dust in the sky was like snowflakes falling continuously. Looking at the thick dusty floor again, Wen Jiu, who entered first, left footprints one after another. That's how they could tell that the floor was not grey but off-white. As the saying goes, we're already here. What are you two doing standing at the door? Come in and work. Wen Jiu took out a mask from somewhere and put it on. Zikingayu opened the bag containing detergent. There are 2 masks inside. This mask was given as a gift when she bought an apron, but she didn't know why a mask was given as a gift when she bought an apron. Hearing this, Zikingayu wanted to take a few deep breaths to calm herself down, but when she thought that she would inevitably inhale a nose full of dust when she breathed at this time, she stopped the action. He thought that he had worked at window number 18 for so long that he had long since gotten rid of his obsessive compulsive disorder. But now he realized that he was really wrong. He wanted to die on the spot just by looking at the dust flying all over the sky. Kyoshi, who was also standing outside, was more receptive. She just frowned and gave herself some psychological preparation and then began to urge Zikingayu to take out the mask quickly. Hurry up, don't dawdle. Seeing that Zikingai was still motionless, she continued, have you never thought about doing dirty and tiring work before coming to work? If you really can't accept it, why don't you put your things down and go home now? Zikingai was unhappy when he heard this. He threw his pocket on the ground and rummaged around. Kaioshishi, wait for me. I will give you a rub in the cleaning today. He said the harsh words in a tone that he thought was fierce, then found a mask and put it on and stepped into the store. Seeing this, Kaioshishi found another mask in her pocket and put it on and then picked up the forgotten pocket before walking in. Because of Wen Jiu's urging and Kaioshishi's ridicule, Zikingai worked particularly hard when cleaning. After a morning, he not only mopped the floor clean, but also wiped the dust off the tables and chairs without a trace, and even volunteered to step on the ladder to make the glass door transparent inside and out. Sister Jiu, why don't you clean the second floor? The steps and handrails of the stairs are all covered with dust. Zikingai raised his hand to wipe the sweat off his face. He must become a cleaning expert today so that Kaioshishi can know how good he is. When Jiu and Kaioshishi were leisurely cleaning the kitchen. After hearing his voice, they came out of the kitchen. I haven't seen the second floor yet, but I remember it seems to be a place to live. When Jiu took the lead and went up the stairs. Many of them who opened shops here live on the second floor and use the first floor for business. At the beginning, there was no real estate development in the East Lake Scenic area, and the shops in the commercial area of the scenic area were all 2 or 3 floors. Therefore, many people who opened shops felt that it was too troublesome to go home, so they converted one of the floors into residential use. Leochu was no exception. He built the second floor of the shop into a 3-bedroom and 1 living room. Apart from his and Ziochu's bedroom, the other room is mainly used to store sundries. When Jiu rented the shop, so Leochu handed over all the keys. But his only request was that he could not redecorate or enter Ziochu's room. This upstairs is also very dirty, how about I clean it here too? Zikingai stood behind Wen Jiu and looked at him. No one has lived on the second floor for a long time, so there is an outrageous amount of dust. Wen Jiu wanted to say that the second floor did not need to be cleaned, but she thought about how they had been in business here for such a long time, and there had to be a place to relax and rest. So she changed her words and said, then I will leave the second floor to you. Zio's classmate, work hard, and I will give you the best employee and a bright little red flower. Zikingai, who was originally a little tired, heard this and instantly became like a chicken blood. Without Wen Jiu saying anything, he ran downstairs to get the cleaning tools. The living room on the second floor is quite spacious, and Leochu had previously thought of renting out the shop, so he moved all his things to the utility room. So with a little modification to the vacant bedroom, this place can be used as their employee lounge. However, when Jiu felt that, although the second floor was a little dusty, it had all the necessary furniture and furnishings, so there was no need to spend money on redecoration or add new furniture for the time being. Anyway, they were just coming here to rest, not really living here. Hey, Sister Jiu, why can't the door of the bedroom here be opened? Zikingai had just moved his cleaning utensils up and was going to start cleaning from the room first. But he couldn't open the door in front of him when he turned the handle, which puzzled him. That bedroom doesn't need to be cleaned. When Jiu glanced at the mahogany door, she remembered that Leochu said that the door of Ziochu's bedroom looked like this. She promised Leochu not to touch Ziochu's room, so she would naturally not do anything that was lip service. Hearing this, Zikingai only responded and took the broom to other rooms. Seeing that there was nothing else to do, when Jiu returned to the kitchen on the first floor and worked with Kaioshishi in the kitchen. In fact, cleaning in the kitchen is no less difficult than cleaning the first and second floors, because in the kitchen, not only do you have to clean the tabletop and floor, but you also need to clean and disinfect all the kitchen utensils, bowls, dishes, spoons, and chopsticks. In addition, you have to wipe off the grease hidden in the cracks of the stove and pack up all kinds of expired ingredients and seasonings and then throw them into the garbage recycling bin outside. So the two of them were busy for a long time before they cleaned the kitchen thoroughly, and Kaioshishi was so tired that she broke out in a sweat. Shishi, go upstairs and see how Zikingayu is cleaning. Wen Jiu said as he stuffed the ingredients he bought in the morning into the refrigerator. It's already noon now. If he hasn't finished cleaning, let him rest for a while. I'll make a few simple dishes here, and we'll be ready in half an hour. Today's third update has been delivered safely. The little author is proud to put his hands on his hips. Thanks again to every little angel for their support. We will soon enter the food section that everyone likes. 030. Chapter 265 Happy Mealtime 1. Wen Jiu put all kinds of ingredients into the refrigerator in different categories and placed all kinds of seasonings neatly beside the stove. Considering that it was already noon, she thought about making a few dishes that could be cooked quickly. She first poured the washed rice into the rice cooker and started steaming, and then processed the vegetables and meat at a rapid speed. When Zikingayu and Kyoshi came down from the second floor, they instantly smelled the long-lost aroma of food. They couldn't eat well or sleep well at home these days, because for them, the lack of meals made by Wen Jiu was like a fish out of water. They could tolerate cleaning in a dirty and messy environment, and they could also accept working in the kitchen. But the only thing they couldn't accept was that they had lost delicious food, and they couldn't survive a day without delicious food. Now that they smelled the familiar and tempting aroma again, the two felt that they were finally alive. Have you finished cleaning up there? Wen Jiu came out of the kitchen with a bowl of tomato and egg drop soup that had just come out of the pot. Seeing that Zikingayu and Kyoshi were both sitting at the table waiting for dinner, she asked them to go to the kitchen to get bowls and chopsticks to eat. It's almost cleaned. Zikingayu used a rice spoon to fill a bowl for herself. I'll go upstairs to wipe the glass after dinner, and then Shishi will pack up the garbage. He walked out with a smile on his face, and the white rice piled in the bowl looked like a small snow mountain. Zikingayu, can you finish so much? Wen Jiu glanced at his rice bowl, feeling a little speechless. But the other party had been cleaning seriously for a whole morning, so it was nothing to eat a little more. However, Zikingayu is no longer the Zikingayu of the past. After going home and communicating with his brother for a few days, he has learned new social skills. That is, as long as he scolds himself first, he doesn't have to worry about being scolded by Wen Jiu. So Zikingayu said confidently, because I'm a glutton, it is easy for me to eat this little rice. After that, he sat down at the table with his bowl of rice. Wen Jiu was stunned at first, and then laughed out loud. Kyoshi also laughed lightly, and the room was filled with a happy atmosphere for a while. Don't learn the skills of arguing with your brother. You might as well go to him to make up for the pharmacy class when you have time. Wen Jiu served himself a bowl of rice after laughing. Zikingayu, who thought he had won the quarrel, was a little proud and was instantly hit by the words of making up for the pharmacy class. He said in a gloomy tone, don't mention the pharmacy class. I feel that it will be difficult for me to pass the pharmacy class in this final exam. Then why did you choose the pharmacy class at that time? Kyoshi moved a seat inside so that Wen Jiu could sit next to her when he came over. Zikingayu sighed deeply and continued, I was young and frivolous. How could I know that my brother would suck away all my talent? However, when it comes to the final exam, what they are most curious about is Wen Jiu and Sun Mao. Seeing that they are also curious and concerned about her, Wen Jiu picked and chose what she could say. She didn't tell them about the follow-up of Sun Mao and her and Zhao Zhao. After all, she didn't understand these things clearly, and they involved many aspects. She didn't want to involve them for the time being. After listening to Wen Jiu's story, Zikingayu relaxed her brows and said, I told you that you must have won. Those people in the college spread rumors, saying that you were beaten into the hospital by Sun Mao. Especially the one named Shigang. He wanted to broadcast this rumor to the whole college. Kyoshi nodded and continued, that's right, and the two of us almost got into a fight with Shigang and his gang. Fortunately, Teacher Lee showed up in time, otherwise we would have violated the college regulations if we really had a fight. The two of them couldn't stop talking about these things. In the end, it was Wen Jiu who reminded them that the food would not taste good if it got cold, so they stopped discussing and ate quickly. Wen Jiu only made a few simple dishes, but in their eyes, they were comparable to high-end restaurants. Sister Jiu, what is this red dish? Zikingayu stared at the pot of spicy food and couldn't help swallowing. Red dried chili peppers and green peppercorns were sprinkled on top, and there were also finely chopped garlic and white sesame seeds mixed in. The overbearing spicy smell kept wafting out from it, and just smelling it would increase one's appetite. Wen Jiu, who had just served himself a bowl of soup, replied, "Boiled pork slices, you can eat that one. It's not spicy at all." Upon hearing this, Zikingayu decisively picked up several slices of meat. Wen Jiu cut the slices of meat himself, so the thickness was moderate and the delicate texture of the tenderloin could be seen. The scorched garlic and white sesame seeds were dotted on top. When they were wrapped in the meat slices and eaten, in addition to the meaty aroma of the meat slices themselves, there was also the spicy stimulation of the chili peppers, as well as the strong aroma of the garlic and white sesame seeds. All kinds of aromas burst out in the mouth at the same time, instantly occupying the entire lip cavity. The tip of the tongue was numbed by the spiciness, and the aroma that reached the top of the head made people feel as comfortable as being in heaven. Moreover, this kind of spicy taste only makes people feel fragrant and refreshing, without the kind of hot and spicy feeling that makes the stomach hurt. Take another bite of rice and chew it. The combination of soft, glutinous, and fragrant rice and spicy and fresh meat slices is simply a ticket to enter the paradise on earth. Just chew carefully, and you can taste the sweetness of the rice grains and the spicy and numbness of the meat slices. The most important thing is that the meat slices have a smooth texture without any dry wood, and there is a hint of numbness in the spicy taste. Wow, so delicious. Zikingayu felt like crying with happiness. He has been drinking nutrient solution for almost a week. After returning home, although there is a private chef hired at a high salary to cook, the other party's cooking level is not at the same level as Wen Jiu. If Wen Jiu's dishes are full marks, then his family's chef can only get 5 points at most. These 5 points are still given for the sake of his parents. After all, in his heart, no one can beat Wen Jiu in cooking, and no one can be compared with Wen Jiu. Comparing his family's chef with Wen Jiu, it can be said that his family's chef has benefited from it. There are also a lot of green vegetables and bean sprouts cooked under the meat slices. The green vegetables soaked in the soup are covered with spicy oil. People who are afraid of spicy food need great courage to eat them. The combination of the fragrant and slightly sweet green vegetables and the spicy soup has a different flavor. Although the mouth is numb after eating, the refreshing feeling brought by the spicy taste is incomparable to other tastes. The arrogant young master who usually doesn't even want to look at the food at home is now buried in the simple little restaurant. Not only is his face flushed, but there are beads of sweat on his forehead. And he doesn't care about his image at all. The chopsticks in his hand keep picking up meat slices and green vegetables into the bowl. Naturally, he didn't forget the crisp and tender bean sprouts. He picked up a large chopstick and swallowed it with rice. The spicy soup spread in his mouth and brought endless spicy. Today's first update. I hope the little angels like 030. Thank you for the support of every little angel. Chapter 266 Happy Meal Time 2. Compared to Zikingayu staring at the boiled pork slices and eating them fiercely, Kyoshish's elegant sitting posture while eating the fish-flavored pork shreds was much more pleasing to the eye. Wen Jiu cut the green peppers, carrots, and black fungus into long thin strips. The various colors mixed together made people feel very beautiful, as if admiring a boldly colored oil painting. The shredded pork marinated with secret seasonings was mixed in, and the bright color added a magical touch to the painting, making the whole dish look brighter and more attractive. Kyoshi originally wanted to taste the boiled pork slices, but Zikingayu kept staring at the boiled pork slices and refused to let go, so she turned around and picked up the fish-flavored pork shreds with chopsticks to taste. Before tasting it, I just thought the dish looked beautiful, but after tasting it, I realized that its taste was not inferior to its appearance, and it was even better. The smooth and tender shredded pork is wrapped in a slowly simmering sweet and sour soup. When you take a bite, you will find that it is slightly spicy. This spiciness is not a deliberate seasoning, but the shredded green peppers blend the spiciness into it. Moreover, this sweet and sour soup is very mellow, which adds more freshness and fragrance to the shredded pork, making people unable to stop eating it. The slightly crispy shredded carrots are eaten into the mouth, and you can taste its freshness and sweetness while chewing. The shredded fungus sandwiched in it is no less inferior, soft and tender with chewiness, and fresh and fragrant with fragrance. This complex taste and flavor amazed Kaioshishi, who also relied on nutrient solution during this period. After all, other meals can't compare with Wen Jiu's, and she can only use nutrient solution to suppress hunger. Moreover, she was very unhappy at home. It was not until Wen Jiu found her that she could run away from home in the name of meeting a friend. Now she not only met her best friend, but also tasted such delicious and tempting food, which made her feel her nose sour, and a thin mist instantly blurred her eyes. Wen Jiu, who was watching her eat slowly, asked with concern, "Shishi, what's wrong with you?" However, Kaioshishi just suppressed the feeling of wanting to cry, and shook her head and replied, "Nothing, I just can't eat spicy food, and this green pepper is a bit spicy for me." "If you can't eat spicy food, then this boiled pork slices are mine." Zikingai wiped the red oil from the corners of her mouth with a tissue. "But you really don't want to try the boiled pork slices? This meat slices with bean sprouts are simply amazing." Kaioshishi no longer looked sad. "I would like to try the boiled pork slices, but some people hold on to that bowl and I can't do anything about it." Her words were self-evident, but the person being implied only replied with confidence, "Forget it, you'd better not try it, lest you cry after eating it. Let me bear the pain of being hit by the spicy taste for you." After saying that, Zikingai started to attack the boiled pork slices again. Seeing his appearance, Kaioshishi snorted, and didn't want to pay any more attention. Then she scooped a few spoonfuls of the fish-flavored pork shred soup, and poured it on the rice, and then mixed it casually. The rich and fragrant yellow soup wrapped the crystal clear ice grains, and every bite was full of sweetness and softness. She ate a whole bowl of rice with the soup alone, and the sour and sweet taste of the soup was difficult to dissipate on the tip of her tongue, so she didn't feel full after a bowl of rice, and even wanted to eat a few more bowls with a big appetite. Kaioshishi thought about it, and stood up, and walked to the kitchen. When she came out again, she saw that she also had a full bowl of rice. There was no way, it was too fragrant and delicious. Unlike the two of them who were busy eating, Wen Jiu was drinking tomato egg drop soup leisurely. She felt thirsty after a busy morning. The big bowl of tomato egg drop soup was constantly rising with mist, and a faint sweet and sour smell came to her face. The egg drops in the soup were stirred loosely like blooming flowers, and the tomatoes were cut into cubes, and boiled very soft, and the full of freshness, sourness, and sweetness were integrated into the soup. There were also a few chopped green onions sprinkled on the soup surface, and you could taste the fresh fragrance of green onions with a sip. In order to save cooking time, Wen Jiu only made these 3 dishes. But each dish was very large, enough for the 3 of them to eat until their stomachs were full. However, Wen Jiu still maintained the habit of eating only 70% full, so the rest of the food was divided up by Kaioshishi and Zikingai. Burp. Zikingai slumped in the chair with a bulging belly. "I feel like I have to train harder, otherwise I will definitely become a little fat man if I eat so much every day." Kaioshishi glanced at his belly and sneered, "You talk as if you are not a little fat man now." The two were about to start their daily bickering when they heard a slightly shrill voice. They looked at the door, but didn't see anyone. "Why do I only hear the voice, but not see anyone?" Zikingai muttered softly while lying on the table. "It's so strange." Kaioshishi also showed a confused expression. "It feels like the voice of a middle-aged aunt." As soon as she finished speaking, a wealthy aunt holding a corn cob walked in. The other party was wearing a vermilion long skirt, and her long sleeves were rolled up to her elbows. A pearl hairpin was pinned on her brown curly hair, and a pair of golden earrings were hanging on her earlobes. Zikingai took the opportunity when Wen Jiu stood up and sat directly in her original position. Then he leaned close to Kaioshishi's ear and whispered, "This auntie is quite fashionable. Could she be a guest coming to eat? I don't know." Jiu didn't say that the store would open today for a long time. Kaioshishi replied in a rare soft tone. Sister Chen had just come back from the mall after getting a new hairstyle, and then she found that the door of Shizuo was open. At first, she thought that Lao Chu had been discharged from the hospital, but she heard the crisp voices of several children at the door, so she walked in curiously. But before she came in, She called her husband and told him to take good care of the store. That's why Zikingayu and Kyoshi heard that sharp and vague voice. "Hey, little girl, it's you." Sister Chen felt that Wen Jiu looked familiar as soon as she saw him. She remembered that he and her mother came to Laochu some time ago and said that they wanted to rent a storefront. What's more, her son's wedding house was bought next to this girl's house. It can be said that they are neighbors among neighbors. "Hello, Aunt Chen." Wen Jiu greeted politely. Sister Chen was always very outgoing. She walked straight to the table where they had just finished their meal and sat down. She glanced around and then said enthusiastically, "It seems that your mother is the new owner of this store. Why don't you see your mother? She is very busy at work." Wen Jiu returned to the table and sat next to Sister Chen, "And I will be responsible for running this store in the future. After all, there is still a long time to come." Sister Chen opened a store next door. Sooner or later, she will find that Uruman rarely comes to the store. It is better to say it openly now that the owner is herself, so as to avoid other people's random speculation. The second update of today has been delivered. Please check it. Little Angels 030, whispering, "I have asked the artist for a double picture of Wen Jiu and Lu Yan before, and it is expected to be completed before the new year. Then I will put the finished picture in the book circle for everyone to see. He equals W equals." Chapter 267 Happy Mealtime 3. Sister Chen was stunned by this. She just thought Wen Jiu was joking. "Is your mother hiring someone to cook here? It just so happens that I know a pretty good chef. If your mother is looking for a chef, you can consider it." She thought that it might be Wen Jiu who helped to look after the store. After all, those who open stores sometimes let their children help. "Thank you, Aunt Chen, for your kindness, but it's not necessary." Wen Jiu gave her a friendly smile. Anyway, she said that she was responsible for the management, and there was nothing else to explain. "So when do you plan to open this store? Auntie can help you promote it." Seeing that the floor and the table were spotless, Sister Chen guessed that the other party should be opening soon, otherwise they would not have cleaned it so early. Wen Jiu nodded and replied, "It will probably be in the next 2 days. Once the preparations are completed, we will open the store." Hearing her say this, Sister Chen asked with a gossipy look on her face, "Are these two children your brothers and sisters? Oh, your family is all very good looking." Zikingayu and Kyoshi were chatting quietly next to each other, but suddenly Sister Chen stared at them with shining eyes. They didn't know how to respond. "I guess so." Wen Jiu thought for a while before speaking. "They are my eldest sister and second brother." She originally wanted to clarify the relationship, but she felt that Sister Chen was quite gossipy. If she said that Kyoshi and Zikingayu were just her friends who came to help, it might be spread that the store used child labor. It would be better to go along with what the other party said. Anyway, there is nothing wrong with her family members helping. "What about your father?" Sister Chen's gossips were endless, and she asked all kinds of questions, as if she was investigating the household registration. Fortunately, Wen Jiu's deception was perfect, and the other party couldn't get anything out of him, after asking for a long time. "Goodbye, Aunt Chen." After finally sending Aunt Chen away, Wen Jiu asked Zikingayu to lock the door. After all, they still had to work in the store in the afternoon. If someone came to inquire about the news, or a customer walked in by mistake, it would be too troublesome to explain. It was better to just lock the door, so that no one would come to disturb them. "Sister Jiu, when I just locked the door, I saw that the sign outside was broken." Zikingayu patted the dust on his hands with a look of disgust. He just touched the sign out of curiosity, and ended up with his hands full of dust. "I know the sign is broken." Wen Jiu asked him to wash his hands first. "I'm planning to come up with a new name and make a new sign." Kyoshi got excited when she heard this, and she quickly said, "What new name should we come up with?" Jiu Private Restaurant? Kyoshi, you are so unsophisticated. It might as well be called Kitchen Number 18. Zikingayu, who was washing her hands in the toilet, howled, and even if others were not there, she would use her voice to participate. Before Kyoshi could say anything, Wen Jiu helped her to fight back. You might as well go back to the college to work, and I will make a nameplate for you called Window Employee Number 18 Zikingayu. I'm opening a restaurant. Can you think of a good name? After she finished speaking, Zikingayu and Kyoshi fell silent at the same time. After a moment, the two spoke at the same time. What if you want to eat more after eating? Why not call it Ganfenshindi? Wen Jiu silently held his forehead and sat at the table. Forget it, I'll come up with a name myself. She didn't plan to choose a too gorgeous name. There was no need to make it so high-end when opening a restaurant in a scenic area. The most important thing was that she wanted to sell some snacks and home-cooked dishes, so a name that was too strange or too gorgeous was not friendly enough. After thinking about it, Wen Jiu said, in fact, I think Shisha's earliest idea of naming is very good. Why not call it Wen Jiu Restaurant? As soon as she finished speaking, she saw Kyoshi and Zikingayu looking at each other, and both of them had indescribable expressions on their faces. What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? Wen Jiu saw this and stood up. Is Wen Jiu Restaurant not nice? We are going to take the popular route, so of course the name must be friendly and popular. Kyoshi naturally wouldn't stand up to refute anything. Although she felt that the name was a little bit bad, this was Wen Jiu's own restaurant, and the other party had the final say on what to call it. But Zikingayu was different. He could not learn from his mistakes. Sister Jiu, your name is not very good. I think it is better to call it Ganfenshindi. He expressed his opinion decisively, and even wanted to drag Kyoshi to die together. Who knew that Kyoshi smiled and said, I think this name is not bad. It is very popular and friendly. It is an affordable route at first glance. Zikingayu was silent. He felt like a clown. However, Wen Jiu did not say anything to him, because of this matter, mainly because he worked hard to clean the whole morning. She also wanted to take a high-end and classy name, but the restaurant mainly focuses on the popular route. And if it is named Chiangxiangla or Juxin Pavilion, it will be very inconsistent when people enter the store and find that it is just a small restaurant. In short, Wen Jiu Restaurant was finally decided as the signboard. Wen Jiu searched for a while on the gold mining store and found a store with cheap prices and fast delivery and successfully placed an order. The next thing to solve is the menu of the store and some minor problems. Sister Jiu, you haven't cooked these dishes for us. Zikingayu had just put the dirty dishes into the dishwasher, and when she came out, she saw Wen Jiu lying on the table writing the menu. The paper and pen were all found on the second floor. Wen Jiu's handwriting was very neat and had an indescribable sense of unrestrained and uninhibited. He was attracted by the other party's handwriting at first. After all, when they were in the children's home, they only learned to recognize and write, and they were not taught how to write beautifully and neatly. Therefore, his and Kyoshi's handwriting was quite casual. Anyway, they only wrote during cultural classes, and this skill was not used at other times. For example, light curtain panels and electronic panels can be typed with keys, and voice input is also possible. Few people choose to write as this method of input. So Zikingayu was instantly attracted by the neat and beautiful handwriting, but he quickly shifted his attention to the names of the dishes. What are these hot and sour noodles, spicy hot pot, and cold noodles? He sat silently beside Wen Jiu, watching him write the names of the dishes stroke by stroke. Seeing that he was very curious, Wen Jiu replied, some snacks. I plan to sell some snacks first, and then add a few home-cooked dishes. I will continue to add new dishes when there are more customers later. Jiu, I have cleaned up the small warehouse at the back. Kyoshi just went to the small warehouse behind the kitchen, which was a place specially separated for storing ingredients. Seeing this, Wen Jiu thought for a moment and said, it happens that both of you are free. Why don't you go to the supermarket to buy some things for me? Today's third update was brought by the little author on a tricycle. Delivered on time, please check it. Little Angels 030. Chapter 268. Is Sister Fake related to me? Wen Jiu. Wen Jiu quickly made a list of things that the store needed. She didn't choose to buy at Xinguang supermarket because the quantity she needed to buy was not large, and most of them were ingredients she would use tonight. After all, She was going to open a store, so she thought she could cook the dishes she was going to sell and let Zikingayu and Kyoshi taste them to see where they needed to be improved. Although she was very confident in her cooking skills, she still had to listen to everyone's opinions. Don't worry, Sister Jiu, we will definitely buy the things for you. Jiu, remember to answer the video call. If we don't know how to choose vegetables, we will call you. It was rare for the two of them not to quarrel at this time, and they walked out of the store in harmony. Just when Wen Jiu thought that the two of them could get along harmoniously, he heard the faint sound of bickering coming in. Sure enough, they were still two energetic children. In fact, after coming out of Danyi Forest, the relationship between Kyoshi and Zikingayu became much closer. It's just that the two of them have long been accustomed to fighting and making trouble, so they continued this way of getting along that suits them. After Zikingayu and Kyoshi left, Wen Jiu first listed the menu briefly, and then studied how to enter the electronic menu. With the electronic menu, customers only need to scan the code on the desktop to order and check out, and their work will be much easier. Wen Jiu thought that there was no need to serve so many dishes at once when the store just opened, so she only chose hot and sour noodles and golden egg fried rice as the staple food. As for the home-cooked dishes, she chose fish-flavored pork shreds and sweet and sour cabbage that were quick to serve. There are still many dishes on the paper menu she listed, but there is a long time to come, and she can slowly add new ones. In addition to these dishes, she also needs to think about the alcoholic beverages sold in the store. It is actually quite a loss to purchase and sell these things from Xinguang supermarket. Wen Jiu thought that she could make some drinks by herself. It's just that she hasn't decided what kind of drink to make yet. Although from a personal point of view, she really wants to drink milk tea, but based on the current situation, the customer group will be mostly middle-aged and elderly people, and people of this age don't like to drink drinks such as milk tea. Therefore, she has to think seriously about what kind of drink to launch. After finishing the electronic menu, Wen Jiu locked the door and left the store. She had to go to the management department of the East Lake Scenic area to report the change of the store name and also register the information of the staff in their store so that she would not need to pay for tickets to enter the scenic area in the future and could enter directly by swiping her face card. Ruman had already helped her deal with things like business licenses and food safety certificates, leaving only some simple things that could be handled without Ruman's accompaniment. Wen Jiu followed the route given by the enthusiastic Sister Chen and turned around in the commercial district before finding the small white room where the management department was located. Because the management department mainly handles matters in the commercial district, there are not many people doing business in the hall. Half an hour later, she happily left the small white room and returned to her store. The customized signs at the gold panning shop are only delivered for free and are not responsible for installation. Wen Jiu saw that Zikingayu and Kyoshi had not returned yet, so he simply carried out the folding ladder and prepared to take down the old sign himself. In this way, when the new sign is delivered, she can install it directly. She had just loosened the screws of the old sign with tools when she heard a loud shout not far away. "Little girl, come down quickly." Wen Jiu looked back and saw a male tourist who appeared out of nowhere. He looked about 20 years old, with yellow curly hair on his head, looking like a big furry dog in the sunlight. But Wen Jiu didn't know why, but she always felt that this man looked familiar. Especially the slightly panicked look on his face. She seemed to have seen him somewhere before. The man walked to the folding ladder anxiously and stretched out his hand, saying in a gentle tone, "Little girl, why are you climbing so high? Come on, brother will catch you, come down quickly." Hearing this, Wen Jiu shook her head and replied, "I'm taking the sign, big brother, stay away or it will hit you later." After that, she continued to tighten the screws, which made Chris, who was standing in front of the folding ladder, very nervous. "Chris, why are you here? I just wandered around next door for a while, and you disappeared in the blink of an eye." Another equally young man ran over panting, and when he saw Chris, he immediately gave him a friendly critical hit. "Zenzin, you." Chris was about to curse on the spot, but he glanced and saw that there were children present, so he could only swallow the curse words on his lips. In fact, he and his good brother Zenzin came here by accident. They originally only planned to travel to Pariman Star, but were forced to cancel it because of his sister's interference. Later, they were finally able to go out for a trip, but it happened to be the peak season for traveling to Pariman Star. They fought for a long time, but couldn't get a ticket for the interstellar spaceship. Therefore, Chris thought it would be better to save their travel plan in a roundabout way. If they couldn't travel independently, they could still join a tour group. So they signed up for a tour group to Pariman Star, but the other brother really didn't have time to go out, so in the end it became him and Zenzin who traveled with a group. However, in addition to Pariman Star, the tour group also arranged to visit nearby small planets, and this 3047 planet that they had never heard of was one of them. When the tour guide brought them here yesterday, Chris and Zenzin both felt cheated. They couldn't eat well, and couldn't sleep well. But as the saying goes, we are here now. Fortunately, I had a good experience visiting the East Lake Scenic Area today. After all, this kind of pure natural landscape is rare on a medium-level planet with many citizens. The higher the level of the planet, the higher the degree of development. Many natural landscapes have disappeared in the development, replaced by various high-tech and cities that are like steel forging. Although there are many tourist planets like Pariman that are suitable for tourism, it is still amazing to see such scenery on such an unknown small planet. What are you doing here? I just saw a souvenir shop selling gem bracelets over there. Do you want to bring one back for your sister? Zenzin saw Chris staring at the little girl on the folding ladder, so he asked curiously, "Why are you staring at the little girl? What's wrong? Do you want to recognize a sister? Go away. Go away." Chris glanced at him. "I saw that this little girl climbed too high, and I was afraid she would fall down." After listening to him finish speaking, Zenzin noticed that the little girl climbed a high height and was still knocking on the rotten sign. "Little girl, can you do it? Brother can help you." Wen Jiu shook her head again, and she replied helplessly, "It's really not necessary. Thank you for your kindness. The first update of today has been delivered. Hehe030. Thank you for the support of every little angel. Chapter 269 is Sister Fake related to me, Wen Jiu. Not long after, the little girl took down the broken sign. Chris and Zenzin, who were standing below, quickly stepped forward to take the sign. They were about to turn around to help the little girl down the stepladder, but they saw her lightly jump to the ground. "Wow, little girl, you are so talented." Zenzin's eyes widened. Wen Jiu first smiled and thanked them, then picked up the broken sign and walked into the store. After all, the sign belonged to Leochu, and it would be impolite for her to throw it away directly. It would be better to put it in the utility room on the second floor and wait for her to ask the other party before dealing with it. The two people outside the door saw Wen Jiu picking up the sign very easily, and they all looked shocked. "This girl is quite fierce. She looks like a good candidate to be an armed mecha soldier." Zenzin came to Chris and whispered his opinion. Although neither of them went to military school, they were more familiar with the types of soldiers in the military region. They have all lived on intermediate planets since childhood, so they naturally have more choices in terms of study and career than citizens of low-level planets. For example, the colleges on low-level planets are all military colleges, which are mainly used to train military district reserves. After graduation, as long as the grades meet the requirements of the military district, they can enter the military district to join the army or choose other jobs. Students with excellent grades can be promoted to higher level schools through assessments to continue their studies, just like continuing to go to college after graduating from high school. Mainly because the educational resources on low-level planets are generally not good, so everyone goes to college to find a way out. The easiest way is to enter the military district. As long as you study hard and train well during your college years, you will definitely reach the minimum standard line. Even in the interstellar era, the situation of uneven resource distribution cannot be avoided. But if you enter the military district with the lowest standard, you can only start from the lowest soldier, but at least you have food, drink, shelter and salary. Therefore, over a long period of time, the colleges on low-level planets have all become military colleges. Intermediate planets are different. In addition to military schools, there are other types of schools to attend. Chris and Zenzin graduated from ordinary schools, but this did not affect their understanding of the military district. Wen Jiu had not learned about the relevant information, and she was not a native citizen of the Federation, so she did not know about the military district. Although the 3047 Academy would teach them a lot of knowledge, the military branches were only learned by seniors. You are the only one who talks too much every day. Chris did not want to pay attention to his good brother at all. He stepped into the small shop with great curiosity. The decoration of the shop was very simple and there were not many furnishings. 8 sets of wooden tables and chairs were neatly arranged, and the glass doors and windows were wiped clean and bright. In the open kitchen with transparent glass windows, the stove and the chopping board table were spotless. This clean and simple environment made people feel good, enough to ignore the shortcomings of the decoration. "Where is your parents, little girl?" Zenzin followed Chris in. After walking around for most of the day, he felt a little tired and hungry. When he saw the 3 words written on the sign before, he thought that this store was probably a restaurant. Since he was here, he could just order a meal here. However, there was no one else in the store except the little girl. He didn't know if her parents were out doing business. Wen Jiu had just locked the door on the 2nd floor and walked down the stairs. She replied in a gentle voice, "This is my store. What's the matter with you two following me in?" When she was upstairs, she remembered that the young boy with blonde curly hair was her die-hard fan. Chris wanted to eat 5 bowls. Speaking of which, the other party was the first fan to follow her. When she was checking the fan's homework, she clicked on Chris's egg fried rice video and watched it. At that time, the other party showed his face, so she felt familiar when she saw the real person. But this is too coincidental. She actually ran into him in real life. Fortunately, she has the vest of Sister Farke. It is well known that Sister Farke is a middle-aged aunt whose husband died. She lives alone and takes care of 2 children. So Chris is a fan of Farke, and what does it have to do with Wen Jiu, who is working part-time to earn money for her studies? "Is this your store?" Zenzin couldn't help but raise his voice. "You opened a store at such a young age." Before the other party could answer, Chris said to him, "Why are you so gossipy? Just open a store. Haven't you seen smart children become independent early?" Wen Jiu really wanted to laugh after hearing this. It seems that Chris is really her fan. She doesn't even need to say anything herself, and the other party helped her finish her words. Zenzin was a little confused by his good brother. He just asked a few more questions out of curiosity, but why did he act like a big villain? Zenzin pulled a chair and sat down with grievance, staring at Chris with a resentful look. However, his good brother didn't want to pay attention to him, and even ran to Wen Jiu to chat. "We are back." It happened that Zeke and Gayu and Kayoshishi came back from the supermarket. They shouted happily at the door, but they were dumbfounded when they saw 2 strangers inside. "Put your things in the small warehouse in the kitchen. I'll come to clean up later." Wen Jiu saw that they finally came back, so he asked them to go to the small warehouse in the kitchen to put their things away first. Seeing this, Chris asked curiously, "Do you 3 run this store together?" "I guess so." Wen Jiu nodded. He didn't know what to ask next, so he could only ask again, "You should be a restaurant, right? Are you open today?" It was almost 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Although it was not the usual dinner time, Chris was a little hungry after strolling in the East Lake scenic area for most of the day. They wanted to find a place to eat at noon, but every time they looked at the menu, they lost their appetite and finally just drank a few sips of nutrient solution. "It's closed for the past 2 days. We are not ready to open yet." Wen Jiu answered the other party's question politely. Although she wanted to open the business and make money quickly, to be honest, she didn't really want to make money from Chris. The other party had eaten the food she cooked before. If he came to the restaurant more often, he might find that there was actually a child under the vest of the rich sister. Moreover, she didn't plan to stop her live broadcast career during the holiday. After the business opened, she would definitely cook and live broadcast at the same time. It didn't matter if her true identity was discovered, but she was mainly afraid of causing some unnecessary trouble. But we are leaving tonight." Zenzin still had an aggrieved look on his face. He lay on the table with a look of despair on his face. "Today's second update is here. Bling bling. 030. Chapter 270 Is Sister Fake related to me? Wen Jiu. But Wen Jiu said that the store would not be open for business in the next 2 days, and even the preparations for opening the store were not done, so Chris and Zenzin had to leave her store. After they left, Wen Jiu went to lock the glass door again. Jiu, we bought everything you wanted. And I also used my brother's membership card discount and successfully saved a lot of star coins. Zikingai raised his chin proudly, as if asking for praise from the other party. However, Wen Jiu just glanced at him and said, "Why didn't you tell me that your brother has a membership card that can get a discount? Otherwise you can save more star coins in the morning." Then I didn't know he had it. Zikingai's face fell instantly. He thought he could crush Kaoshishi by helping to save money. He didn't expect that his brother even had this kind of supermarket membership card, and it was a distinguished platinum card that could get a 30% discount. It was in the afternoon, when he and Kaoshishi were shopping in the supermarket, that his brother called to ask him when he would go home for dinner, and then he told the other party about his experience in Wen Jiu's store. As a result, Ziziu immediately asked him which supermarket he was in, and then asked his assistant to search for a long time before finding the membership card. You can use this supermarket membership card. Remember to tell Wen Jiu that this is my card. You must emphasize it, okay? By the way, when will Wen Jiu store open? I'll send her a flower basket. Does she need a membership card for that mall? Hello Zikingai was speechless when he thought of his brother. The other party didn't even care about his working life, but only cared about Wen Jiu. However, as a good brother, of course he had to help his brother get some impression points. So he said decisively, "It's all my brother's fault for not handing over the card earlier, causing you, Jiuji, to spend more star coins to buy things. I want to condemn his immoral behavior here." After he put the blame on Ziziu, Wen Jiu really didn't say anything more, and even praised him a few words to thank him for his membership card. "You take these 2 bags of sweet potatoes and wash them. Wash off the dirt on them, and then wipe them dry with a towel." Wen Jiu planned to sell hot and sour noodles in the menu, but there was no ready-made sweet potato noodles for making hot and sour noodles, so she had to make them by hand. It is not difficult to make sweet potato noodles. You can use sweet potato starch to make them, or you can spend more time making them with ordinary sweet potatoes. She naturally prefers to use sweet potatoes to make sweet potato noodles, which are more chewy and have a stronger flavor after long cooking. But this method takes more time, so Wen Jiu thought of using sweet potato starch instead. In addition, she found out that the supermarket had a buy 10 kilograms get 10 kilograms of sweet potatoes free event in the morning. So she asked Zikingai and Kaoshishi to buy 20 kilograms of sweet potatoes. While they were washing the sweet potatoes, Wen Jiu sorted out other ingredients. After sorting the purchased ingredients and items into categories, she started making ordinary hot and sour noodles. The first thing to do is to make the versatile secret chili oil, which can not only be used to make hot and sour noodles, but can also be added to other dishes. So Wen Jiu made a big bowl of it, and the kitchen was filled with spicy and numbing smells. Then she used the cleaned chicken racks and pork shanks to cook soup, and put a little scallion and ginger slices in it, before cooking to remove the fishy smell. Next, she needed to make minced meat sauce. She took a piece of Gilu beast meat that was 4 fat and 6 lean, washed it, and held a sharp kitchen knife in each hand. After chopping it for a while, it became minced meat with distinct grains. Wen Jiu lit the fire and set up the iron pot. When the oil temperature in the pot rose, she poured the chopped scallions and garlic into it. The strong aroma of scallions and garlic came with a crackling sound, and then she put in the chopped meat and a small amount of seasoning, and started to stir fry. The originally pink minced meat was dyed golden after being baptized by hot oil. At this time, it was turned to medium heat and continued to fry slowly. The minced meat in the pot gradually became crispy and the fat in the meat was fried out. The rich and tempting meat aroma was mixed with a spicy aroma that had not yet dissipated. Anyone who smelled this aroma would be tempted to come out of the hole. Zikingai and Kaoshishi, who had just washed and wiped the sweet potatoes, were lured by the aroma and swallowed their saliva. They silently packed up the sweet potatoes and stacked them in the small warehouse, then left the kitchen and found a seat in the hall. The smell was so fragrant that they were afraid that, if they stayed in there, they would not be able to help but get close to the pot to smell it carefully. After Wen Jiu finished making the minced meat sauce, he went to the small warehouse to find yellow peas and red-skinned peanuts. What she was going to make next was crispy peas and fried peanuts. After they were done, they could be eaten as snacks, but adding them to the hot and sour noodles would add a layered taste. The method of making crispy peas and fried peanuts is very simple. Just put cold oil in the pan and turn on medium heat to let the oil temperature gradually rise. During this process, you need to keep turning it over to prevent it from sticking to the pan. When the peas and peanuts in the pan start to make crackling sounds, you can use a colander to scoop them out and let them cool. However, crispy peas and fried peanuts cannot be fried in the pan at the same time because they require different oil temperatures, so they have to be done twice separately. The last thing to do is to make handmade sweet potato powder. Wen Jiu will use the simplest method to make it tonight. She poured an appropriate amount of sweet potato starch, salt and water into a bowl, then gently stirred it with her hands until the starch and water were mixed, then added hot water to the bowl, and continued to stir it evenly with a spoon. After stirring, add sweet potato starch again, and then use an egg beater for the final stirring. After completing these, you can use a bag to collect the mixed soft paste, and then cut a small hole at the bottom to squeeze it into a large bowl of boiling water. The paste will fall into the boiling water in strips along the opening. When it is all squeezed out and cooked until it floats on the surface, it can be fished out and put into cold water for later use. After completing these preparations, Wen Jiu just wanted to say that in modern times, it is enough to order takeout, but here it takes so many processes. But this is also normal. She opened a store and did not eat takeout, so she must do it herself. Finally, all these are combined, and then the appropriate amount of seasoning is added for seasoning. You two go in and take it yourself. Wen Jiu came out with a big bowl of steaming hot and sour noodles. She was too lazy to come out to find a tray and just took her own. Hearing this, Zikingai and Kyoshi hurried into the kitchen. They were already very hungry, and it was just time for dinner. There was a big bowl in front of each of the three people, and the grey and transparent sweet potato noodles were soaked in the shiny red soup. They were just about to start eating when they suddenly heard a muffled clapping sound. Looking for the sound, Chris and Zenzin were standing outside the glass door. Today's third update has been delivered. Please check it out, little angels. PS. The recipe for hot and sour noodles is from the blogger Lepa How Loves Food. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 271 A Bowl of Hot and Sour Noodles 1. This scene was unexpected by Wen Jiu and the other two. However, Chris and Zenzin, who were standing outside, did not expect that they would see such a scene. They originally planned to find a restaurant to eat something. Although the nutrient solution can reduce hunger after drinking, as a person who eats a lot, he always feels that his mouth is tasteless. Therefore, Chris and Zenzin strolled in the commercial district for a long time, but they still did not find the restaurant they wanted to go in and order food. It was almost 6 o'clock after wandering around, and it was more than half an hour before their tour group would gather. So they gave up struggling and decided to make do with the nutrient solution. As soon as Chris took out the nutrient solution, he smelled a faint spicy aroma in the air. He kept moving his nose to find the source of the aroma and ended up going around and back to the starting point. That is the store where he met the strange girl. Although the door of the store was locked and could not be opened, the transparent glass door could see inside clearly. The three kids were sitting around the table, with a light mist rising up with a very tempting spicy aroma. Kids, open the door. Can you sell me some food? Chris was still immersed in the impact of the spicy aroma, but saw his good brother Zenzin slamming the glass door. To be honest, he thought this behavior was particularly embarrassing. but he still shouted with the other party, "Boss, open the door. Just name a price. My buddy is rich." Wen Jiu and the other two in the store were still thinking about how to answer when they saw Sister Chen from the next store came out with corn cobs in her hands and cotton slippers on her feet. She peeked through the glass door, then chewed a piece of corn, and said to Chris and Zenzin fiercely, "What are you two guys arguing about here? Do you want to bully other girls? Didn't you see that they locked the store and stopped doing business? Why are you still arguing? I tell you, don't rely on your age to bully others who are young." Sister Chen's voice was loud and immediately attracted the passing tourists to look in their direction. "Auntie, please listen to my explanation." Chris realized that something was wrong and bowed repeatedly to apologize. But Sister Chen still didn't give up and taught him and Zenzin a lesson, and even several tourists who didn't know the truth came to reason with her. "Auntie, we are really not bad people." Zenzin didn't expect things to turn out like this. "We just want to go into the store to eat. We really don't mean anything else." Chris, who was standing next to him, also apologized and explained, but more and more onlookers joined in the fun, making them feel embarrassed and helpless. Fortunately, when Jiu opened the door and came out at this time, she pulled Sister Chen, who was yelling, and said softly, "Auntie Chen, don't worry, these two guests must have mistakenly thought that my store is open. Then I can't knock on your store door." Sister Chen ate another piece of corn. "The door is made of ordinary glass. What if it breaks?" Chris glared at Zenzin after hearing this. If the other party hadn't been emotional and knocked on the door, he wouldn't have been implicated like this. Zenzin smiled embarrassedly and scratched his head. He was just overwhelmed by hunger. The main reason was that the smell was too fragrant and he happened to be very hungry, so he did such an impolite behavior. So he quickly said, sorry. If there is any damage caused, I can pay the price." No, I will pay 3 times the compensation." "That's better." She smacked her lips and continued, "You can go to Wang's restaurant if you want to eat. It's on Commercial Street too." Seeing that the matter had been resolved, the onlookers who were watching the excitement dispersed on their own. Only Sister Chen was left standing at the door of the store, looking at Chris and Zenzin. She was still very vigilant and even pulled Wen Jiu behind her. Can't we eat here?" Chris knew that Sister Chen was wary of them, but he really just wanted to eat. Zenzin also said embarrassedly, "If we can't eat in the store, can we take it away and eat it?" If they encountered such a misunderstanding at other times, they would definitely leave directly after explaining it clearly. But this spicy smell is so fragrant that they were tempted to swallow their saliva just standing at the door. Sister Chen wanted to refute that the other kid didn't know how to cook, but she suddenly smelled a strong spicy fragrance. "What is this smell?" She was twitching her nose at this time, just like Chris did before. When Jiu, who originally didn't want to open the door to receive customers, had no choice but to explain, "I just made hot and sour noodles. Aunt Chen, would you like a bowl?" Of course. Sister Chen walked directly into the store and found an empty seat to sit down, and didn't forget to say hello to Zeke and Gayu and Kaioshishi, who were sitting at another table. After she went in, Chris swallowed his saliva and asked Wen Jiu carefully, "Can we go in and eat? Or can we take it away?" "Just the hot and sour noodles. We only need 2 bowls. Then I'll pack it for you." When Jiu saw that Chris was really pitiful, not to mention that the other party was his little fan. Hearing this answer, Chris and Zenzin hurried forward to thank her. So after receiving the meal money they transferred, when Jiu turned around and went into the kitchen to make hot and sour noodles. Except for the sweet potato noodles, there was no extra preparation that needed to be made on the spot, and the other ingredients were prepared in advance. But the sweet potato noodles were simple and quick to make. After a while, when Jiu walked out of the store and handed the packaged hot and sour noodles to Chris. "Thank you so much." They thanked him sincerely again before leaving. There was a place for tourists to rest in the commercial area, so Chris and Zenzin found an empty seat here and sat down. As soon as the two sat down, they couldn't wait to open their pockets, and then each took out a takeaway box. "Wow, finally I have something to eat." Zenzin unpacked the chopsticks before slowly opening the lid of the takeaway box. The spicy, fresh and spicy aroma instantly rose up, attracting the attention of the tourists who were also sitting here to eat. However, Zenzin only wanted to quickly taste the taste of the hot and sour noodles, and didn't care about the curious eyes of other tourists. He first picked up the golden and light white fried egg on the surface. The crispy and tender fried egg was stained with bright red soup. When he took a bite, in addition to the crispy and tender fried egg, the spicy soup also hit his soul. Chris next to him moved the fried egg to the side. He picked up a chopstick of light grey hot and sour noodles and blew it, then sucked it into his mouth. The hot and sour noodles were smooth and chewy, and tasted moderately hard and tough. The fresh, spicy and spicy taste occupied his lips, and there was a hint of sour vinegar in it. It was so addictive. Today's first update has been delivered. Thank you for the support and love of the Little Angels 030. Chapter 272. A bowl of hot and sour noodles 2. Zenzin chewed the fried egg in his mouth, squinting his eyes and carefully feeling the comfort he had never experienced before. The outermost layer of the fried egg was naturally the crispiest, but the tenderness inside was no less. The egg yolk even had a runny core, and when it burst in his mouth, it brought with it the sour and spicy taste of the soup, which made him wonder what kind of divine fried egg this was. But the fried egg was only a small one, and even if he deliberately slowed down his chewing speed, he couldn't stop the delicious fried egg from disappearing. So Zenzin picked up the hot and sour noodles in the bowl again. He looked at the light grey and transparent noodles with some doubts. After all, he had never seen this kind of ingredient. But it didn't matter, he didn't even know what hot and sour noodles were. And he saw his good brother Chris eating so deliciously, so he thought that the taste of this hot and sour noodles would not be worse than the fried egg. He picked up a chopstick of steaming hot and sour noodles, blew it carefully a few times, and then ate it with curiosity and anticipation. The soup wrapped around the vermicelli was sour, spicy, and numbing. Although the vermicelli itself was cooked to be soft, chewy, it was completely different. The breeze that suddenly blew over brought a hint of coolness, but Zenzin, who was eating the hot and sour noodles, felt that he was sweating all over. He was in a hurry when he ate the hot and sour noodles before, and he didn't mix the seasoning. Later, he mixed the hot and sour noodles like Chris did. When he tasted it again, in addition to the sour and spicy aroma, there was also the rich meaty aroma of minced meat sauce. And if you close your eyes and taste it carefully, you can still taste a hint of onion. Zenzin closed his eyes and raised the corners of his mouth. Various flavors exploded on his tongue, giving him a tingling and comfortable feeling. Chris next to him was not much better. He was shocked by the sour and spicy taste and was in a state of ecstasy. In addition to constantly slurping noodles into his mouth, he was holding the bowl and sipping the soup. His cheeks were flushed from eating, as if he had met someone who made his heart beat. However, there was nothing in front of him, only a bowl of hot and sour noodles that tempted him crazily. Hey, buddy, can you tell me where you bought this? Chris was still immersed in the hot and sour aroma and completely ignored the questions of other tourists next to him. And his good brother Zenzin was naturally not much better, just focusing on eating noodles and completely ignoring others. Is it so delicious? These two people ignored us. More and more tourists gathered around smelling the aroma, until Chris finished the last mouthful of soup, and found that he and Zenzin were surrounded by a crowd of people. Hey, buddy, you finally finished eating. We thought you would eat until the scenic spot was closed. A young man standing next to him patted his shoulder. Before Chris could say anything, he heard other tourists start to ask questions. What are you eating, little brother? It smells so good. May I ask which store you bought it from? The tourists surrounding them all had curious looks on their faces, but Chris just waved his hand helplessly and said, I'm sorry, there were only these two left in the store when we went there. Yes. Zenzin naturally would not cause any more trouble for Wen Jiu. These are the last 2 servings of hot and sour noodles. After he finished speaking, he quickly closed the lid of the takeaway box and took Chris's takeaway box and put it in his pocket. I'm really sorry, please make way. Zenzin bit the bullet and picked up the bag, ready to throw it into the trash can. But the tourists still refused to give in, surrounding Zenzin and Chris and not letting them leave. In the end, it was the tour guide of their tour group who came over and rescued them from the siege. At this time, on the other side, Sister Chen was concentrating on slurping noodles, and there were 5 empty bowls in front of her. She sucked the last noodle of the bowl of hot and sour noodles into her mouth, then picked up the bowl and drank the spicy soup in the bowl. Burp. Comfortable. She put down the empty bowl and burped loudly, then tore a piece of tissue to wipe the red oil from the corner of her mouth. Zikingai leaned close to Kaioshishi and whispered, "This is the 6th bowl of hot and sour noodles. Do you think she will have another bowl?" "I don't think so." Kaioshishi was also a little embarrassed. If she eats more, she can participate in the Big Stomach King competition. Both of them were witnesses to Sister Chen's record of eating hot and sour noodles. In just 1 hour, she gulped down 6 bowls of hot and sour noodles, which really shocked them. "Aunt Chen, do you want to eat more?" Wen Jiu walked out from the kitchen door and divided the soup bowls on the tray between Zikingai and Kaioshishi. The soup bowls were filled with the vegetable soup she had just cooked, which was most suitable for reducing the spicy taste in the mouth. The light green vegetable soup was fragrant and a little hot when drinking, but it was refreshing and had a hint of sweetness, which made people feel very comfortable. Her Sister Chen took the bowl of soup and blew it before taking a sip. No, if I eat any more, my clothes will burst." Wen Jiu looked at what she said and saw that Sister Chen's belly was bulging, as if she was pregnant. In fact, there was no baby in it, only 6 bowls of hot and sour noodles. Jiu, please calculate the meal money for me." Sister Chen drank the vegetable soup in 1 gulp, and she was shocked to realize that she had forgotten something. So she quickly said, "Can you help me cook another bowl of hot and sour noodles to take away? I just remembered that my husband hasn't eaten yet." It was all because the hot and sour noodles were so fragrant and delicious that she forgot the existence of her husband. Wen Jiu smiled and agreed. She asked Sister Chen to scan the quarter code on the table to pay the bill, and then went to pack a portion of hot and sour noodles for her. "Thank you, Jiu. You must let me know when you open the store, and I will bring people to support you." Sister Chen paid for the meal and left with the takeaway bag. After she left, Wen Jiu asked Kaioshishi to lock the store door again. As for Zikingai, she naturally cleaned the table and threw the dishes into the dishwasher. "By the way, Zikingai, how much discount can your brother's membership card get?" "Jiu, that card can get 30% off." After everything was packed up, Wen Jiu sat at the table and calculated the next store expenses. The first thing to calculate is the purchase of ingredients. She originally planned to buy ingredients in large quantities at Xinguang Supermarket. After all, Xinguang Supermarket has a large supply of goods, and the more you buy, the more you save, which is especially suitable for her to open a store. But now with ZZ's membership card, you can get a 30% discount. In this way, the price of buying ingredients in shopping malls and supermarkets does not seem to be much different from that in Xinguang Supermarket. Of course, you have to be thrifty in life, and when Jiu found the paper and pen again, while browsing the discount information of Stonet Supermarket and Mall Supermarket, she listed the price list and compared their prices. Today's second update has also been successfully delivered. Please check it out, little angels. 030. Chapter 273, A Bowl of Hot and Sour Noodles 3. It was not until Kaioshishi's family called and urged her to go home that when Jiu finished calculating and comparing the price list. However, she could continue to do the next work when she got home, so she asked Kaioshishi and Zikingai to leave first, and she checked the things again and closed the store and left. It was already dark outside, and when Jiu had to turn on the lights to illuminate, she first checked every corner of the first floor, making sure that all kinds of items and ingredients were stored, and then stepped onto the stairs to the second floor. In fact, the decoration of the second floor as a residence is also very simple, but after the bright yellow light is illuminated, looking at the ubiquitous atmosphere of life, it is very warm and cozy. When Jiu looked around the living room, and then pushed open the doors of the master bedroom and utility room to take a look. After confirming that there was no problem, she was about to go to the bathroom again, but suddenly heard a slight noise. It seemed that there was someone walking in the house besides her. This was mainly because the floors on the second floor were all paved with wood, and it was particularly easy to make a creaking sound after stepping on it for a long time. Wen Jiu stood there with bated breath. Apart from her own shallow breathing and the ticking of the clock, she heard no other sounds. But she did not leave in a hurry. She just stayed there and pricked up her ears. After a long time, she finally heard the faint creaking sound. Wen Jiu turned her head and looked for the source of the sound, but what surprised her was that the sound came from the mahogany door. Behind the mahogany door was Xiaochu's room. How could there be the sound of someone walking on the ground? She deliberately slowed down her steps and breathing, and slowly walked to the mahogany door. After waiting for a while, another shallow creaking sound came out. Because she was standing in front of the mahogany door, the sound was much clearer than before. Wen Jiu silently put her hand into the pocket of her cotton padded jacket, and the cold touch of the metal made her more nervous. It was not that she was afraid of any strange people or creatures appearing. She was just wondering why she was so unlucky. After finally making it to the final exam, she was targeted and wasted several days of her vacation. Now that she has finally finished her makeup exam and is on vacation, she can open the store to make money, but now she has encountered strange things again. She really just wants to make money quietly. Thinking of this, Wen Jiu silently found the key to the mahogany door. She held the key tightly and waited for the creaking sound again. Creak. Creak. Wen Jiu quickly took out the key and unlocked the door in one go, but when she pushed the door open, there was only a breeze blowing in her face. The dust in the room was blown all over the sky by the wind. There was nothing else except the furniture and Xiaochu's personal belongings. Wen Jiu covered her mouth and nose with her sleeves and stepped into the room. She searched carefully, but found nothing unusual. No, it was not completely nothing unusual. She frowned and stood in front of the wide open glass window. Outside the window was the main road of the commercial street without any obstructions. Besides, considering how much Xiaochu cares about Xiaochu, how could he not even close the window? This is really strange. The window and the door are just opposite each other, and there is a wooden desk under the window. Wen Jiu first leaned over the window and looked down. It was already the closing time of the scenic spot, so the road was empty. Occasionally, a few people passed by, but they were not tourists. They were all shop owners living here. She observed for a long time, but did not find anything unusual, so she could only close and lock the window. Because the desk was next to the window, she closed the window and looked down, and saw various marks engraved on it. It's annoying to study every day, but the teacher said that only by studying hard can you be promoted. Whoever loves to go to school can go to school. Anyway, I don't want to go to the college. Sorry for the slap in the face. I love to go to school. Wen Jiu glanced casually, and the marks engraved on it looked like he was writing a short diary. It can be seen that Xiaochu is a somewhat naughty child, no different from other children. While complaining about how tired and annoying it is to go to school, he ran to the college obediently. But as she looked at it, she found something wrong. Xiaochu's habit of carving words was from top to bottom, so the words carved on the upper half of the table were all complaining about college life. But the words carved on the lower half of the table were completely different. Why is it me? I want to give up. Can I? It hurts. It hurts every day. Someone come to save me. I really can't hold on any longer. XX told me that I can make a wish to God. I think this is really stupid. If I can escape completely by making a wish, then I'm willing to sacrifice my soul. No one can save me. Wen Jiu was a little silent after seeing these words. She didn't know much about Xiaochu, but from other people, she could tell that the other party should have experienced something unbearable. Zhu Wangming had also revealed to her before that it was because Xiaochu was taken away for training that he became the kind of out of control and violent appearance in the end, which led to a big mistake and escape. Alas, Wen Jiu's mood was a little complicated. She gently stroked the marks on the table. Just as she was thinking quietly, another slight creaking sound was heard. She walked in the direction of the sound. This time the sound came from Xiaochu's closet. Swish. Wen Jiu gathered a flame with one hand and pulled open the wooden door of the closet with the other. However, what she didn't expect was that there was a black kitten in the pile of clothes under the closet. As if sensing Wen Jiu's gaze, the kitten went deeper into the pile of clothes. It pressed on the loose wooden board at the bottom of the closet and made a faint creaking sound. Why is there a cat here? Wen Jiu talked to herself and moved closer. She extinguished the flame and dug open the pile of clothes, then took the kitten out. The cat was black all over, but there were a few tufts of bright red hair on its forehead. It looked very thin and wanted to struggle to escape after being caught. It waved its claws desperately, but Wen Jiu could see at a glance that the cat's right forelimb was injured. Where did you get in, little guy? The window? She held the black cat in her arms and observed it. When she was in the sect before, there were several sisters who liked to keep pets, and one of them kept a kitten. Therefore, Wen Jiu was quite familiar with cats. She saw that, although this cat was very thin, it should be an adult cat in terms of its body shape. Poor little kitten, you have no food to eat here. Do you want to go home with me? Wen Jiu smiled and stretched out her hand to fiddle with the cat in her arms, but the cat was so ferocious that it wanted to bite her finger. This is the third update of the day. It has also been sent to the little angels by the little author Hetty030. Chapter 274 Crispy Pork Belly 1. Wen Jiu naturally didn't give it a chance to bite her. She was a very kind little Wen Jiu, and of course she wouldn't bother with such a stray animal. So she clamped the black cat's neck flesh with her hand, and the black cat, which was still showing its teeth and claws, instantly quieted down. But for some reason, Wen Jiu always felt that there was a kind of anger in its eyes. Why are you so fierce? I will take you home, give you treatment, and give you delicious food. It's better than wandering outside, right? She walked out of Xiaochu's bedroom with the cat in her arms and found a waste cardboard box in the utility room to temporarily put the black cat in. After all, the kitten made Xiaochu's wardrobe so messy, she had to tidy up the wardrobe. When Wen Jiu finished tidying up Xiaochu's wardrobe and room and came out, she saw the black cat trying to escape from the cardboard box at a glance. Let's go, come home with me. She stuffed the black cat back into the cardboard box, then picked up the cardboard box and walked downstairs. Hey, Xiaochu, are you going to go home? It happened that Sister Chen was standing outside her store, and she saw Wen Jiu holding the cardboard box at a glance. Yes. Wen Jiu put the cardboard box steadily on the ground, then locked the glass door, and pulled down the shutter door. Fortunately, the shutter door can be raised and lowered intelligently, otherwise she would have to move a ladder to pull it down to lock the door. She chatted with Sister Chin casually for a few words, and then picked up the cardboard box and prepared to leave. But before Wen Jiu took a few steps, she suddenly thought of something and stood there. Hey, Aunt Chen. She walked back with the cardboard box. Can you see if this cat is a stray cat or a cat raised in a store? This black cat appeared inexplicably. What if it was someone else's cat that sneaked out to play and she mistakenly took it away as a stray cat? Wouldn't it be embarrassing? Wen Jiu did not seal the cardboard box, so Sister Chen came forward and saw the black bull in the cardboard box. Oh, isn't this Xiaohei? She looked a little surprised. This Xiaohei has a bad temper. He will scratch anyone who touches him, and he will bite people. No one here dares to touch him. I didn't expect you to catch him. After listening to Sister Chen's words, Wen Jiu realized that the cat was called Xiaohei. No one knows when Xiaohei appeared in the commercial district, but no one cares about it. Because the scenery of the East Lake Scenic Area is pleasant and the environment is good, wild animals often live here. At first, it was mainly birds, and occasionally there would be some small wild rabbits, squirrels and the like. Later, I don't know when it started, but a lot of stray animals appeared in the commercial district. There are cats and dogs, and even a shop owner found a hamster locked in a cage at his door. After checking the surveillance, the staff of the scenic area found that some uneducated people ran here to abandon their pets. Federal law stipulates that citizens must register and obtain certificates for pets, and prohibits citizens from abandoning pets at will. If you abandon your pet without reason, it will be considered a violation of the animal protection law, and if the circumstances are serious, you will be sentenced. But even with such clear and strict laws, there are still some people who regret having pets not long after they have them. Some people will choose to wrestle or give away their pets through legal channels, but some people are particularly uncultured and irresponsible. They will take their pets to travel to other planets and then find an opportunity to abandon their pets there and come back to say that their pets are lost or died of illness. Although the staff will inject the pets with positioning chips when raising pets, there will be a market if there is demand, and there will always be a few unscrupulous pet hospitals that can perform chip removal surgery. In short, the dark side of people is unimaginable, and these abandoned pets can only wander around. We feel that they are all pitiful. Some residents who are willing to adopt them will choose to that they like and apply for a certificate to adopt them. For the rest that have not been adopted, we will raise funds together, vaccinate them, do a physical examination, and sterilize them, and then let them roam freely here. I don't remember when Zhao appeared. Anyway, he is famous for being fierce and irritable in the commercial area. And because we can't catch him, he hasn't been vaccinated or had a physical examination yet. Sister Chen gave Wen Jiu a lot of instructions and told her where to apply for a certificate to adopt Zhao. Thank you, Aunt Chen. Then I will take Zhao away. After saying goodbye to Sister Chen, Wen Jiu walked out of the scenic area again with a cardboard box. However, she did not rush back to Donghu Garden, but took a bus to the Animal Management Bureau that Sister Chen mentioned. To adopt Zhao, you must first register your information at the Animal Management Bureau, and then follow the prescribed procedures before you can get a certificate for Zhao. The whole process took only half an hour, and the staff called Yu Ruman to ask about it. After all, Wen Jiu is still a minor, and must have the permission of her guardian to adopt Zhao. Your adoption application has been approved, and you can leave with your pet now. Okay, thank you, beautiful sister. The Animal Management Bureau gave Wen Jiu a portable pet box. After she stuffed Zhao in it, she picked up the box and continued to the next destination. She didn't expect that in the Interstellar era, there would be so many procedures to keep a pet. Not only did she have to register Zhao information to apply for a pet ID card, but she also had to review her personal information and financial situation. Only after all the conditions were met could she apply for adoption. Then Wen Jiu took Zhao to the Donghu District Pet Hospital. Because she is now registered in Donghu District, she can get a 5% discount on the cost of Zhao physical examination and vaccination. Little friend, I see that your cat has not been sterilized yet. Do you want to consider sterilizing it by the way? It just so happens that our hospital is holding an event these 2 days. 3 cats can enjoy a 10% discount if they group together to have their testicles removed. Apart from anything else, Wen Jiu was tempted when she heard about the 10% discount. The most coincidental thing was that there were 2 cat owners nearby who had brought their cats to be sterilized. They persuaded Wen Jiu to join them in group buying to have their testicles neutered. Meow, meow, meow. Wen Jiu was thinking about whether to sterilize Zhao at the same time when he heard Zhao making a shrill and sharp cat cry in the cage. It meowed and scratched around in the pet box with its claws. It seemed that it was resisting madly because it knew that Wen Jiu was going to neuter its testicles. Little friend, your cat is quite fierce. The doctor who was promoting the group buying testicle neutering activity squatted down and moved closer. He stretched out his hand to check why the cat was so irritable. As a result, Zhao suddenly pounced in front of the cage and stretched out his claws, almost scratching the doctor's hand. Is this cat in heat? Little friend, let me tell you, neutering its balls is good for it and you. Many cats and dogs with bad tempers have become better after being neutered. Your cat has such a bad temper, it's a pity not to neuter its balls. The first update of the day has been delivered. Chiliu the little author wanted to eat crispy pork belly, so he wrote crispy pork belly. Hehe 030. Chapter 275 Crispy Pork Belly 2. The doctor in charge of sales kept telling Wen Jiu about the benefits of sterilization for pets, and the 2 owners who were waiting to join the group to have their testicles removed were looking forward to it. Little friend, think about it, this promotion is really worthwhile. After thinking for a while, Wen Jiu finally decided not to sterilize Ziohei, mainly because Ziohei's resistance was too fierce. Her actions made the doctor and the other two owners very disappointed, but they could not force the sale, and could only hope that the next owner who brought a cat would join the group. Ziohei, who successfully saved his testicles, suddenly calmed down and allowed other doctors to take him for a physical examination and vaccination. Ziohei's right forelimb has a slight fracture. Try not to let it climb around when you go back. Remember to apply this ointment on its right forelimb 3 times a day for 3 or 4 days. Here is its physical examination report. It has no other problems except for some malnutrition. I will prescribe 2 more packs of prescription food and a can of nutritional paste for it. You can feed it according to its weight according to the instructions. Wen Jiu carefully wrote down the doctor's instructions, bought some pet supplies here, and then walked out of the pet hospital with a pet box in one hand and a bag in the other. It was almost 10 o'clock when she got home. After she opened the door of the pet box, she saw a black shadow rushing out. Ziohei, get familiar with the environment by yourself. I'll prepare the food for you. As she said that, she picked up the bag and found a corner in the living room. She first put the cat bed on the ground, and then took out the food bowl and pet drinking fountain and set them up. As for the cat litter box, she planned to put it in the bathroom. After all, cats smell bad when they go to the toilet, so she didn't want to stink up her living room. Wen Jiu turned sideways and tried to take out the prescription food from her pocket when she suddenly heard a sound of breaking air. She quickly stood up and moved a few steps, only to see Ziohei fall at her feet. What? Do you want to sneak attack me? She grabbed Ziohei's neck and lifted him up unhappily. How uncomfortable it was for you to be a wanderer outside in the wind and sun before. Now you come home with me and have a place to live, food and toys. It cost me a lot of star coins to buy you this pile of pet supplies, and didn't you hear the staff of the Animal Management Bureau say that many stray animals will be sent for disposal if they are not adopted for a long time? This was not something Wen Jiu made up. She did chat with the staff for a while waiting for the formalities to be processed. From this, she learned that, although there is a stray animal shelter, the animal capacity of the shelter is limited after all, and those stray animals that have not been adopted for a long time will be disposed of. Ziohei seemed to understand what Wen Jiu said, and it no longer resisted and struggled, looking like it had no desire to live, and let Wen Jiu deal with it. Alas, how can I be so kind? Wen Jiu did not do anything to Ziohei, but just put it in the cat bed and let it rest. Then she continued to look for prescription food and electronic measuring spoon, and then prepared food according to Ziohei's weight according to the instructions. Come and eat, you must be hungry. After wandering outside for so long, she poured the precisely prepared cat food into the food bowl, and then took the pet water dispenser to the kitchen to get water from the water purifier. When she came out with the pet water dispenser, Ziohei was still lying in the cat bed motionless, and the cat food in the food bowl had not been reduced. If you are not hungry now, eat later. Wen Jiu thought about what Sister Chen said, that they would feed these stray animals, and thought that Ziohei would at least have no problem with eating. So she just put away the remaining pet supplies, and then went to wash her hands, and planned to make a midnight snack for herself. To be honest, she was not a particularly kind person. She was so nice to Ziohei, mainly because seeing it reminded her of her previous wandering life in the garbage dump. Besides, it doesn't cost much to raise a cat, so bringing Ziohei back home can be considered as giving it a home. While thinking about what pet supplies to buy, Wen Jiu found a piece of pork belly from the Black Wind wild boar from the refrigerator. She was really craving for meat, and she hadn't eaten crispy pork belly for a long time. The crispy and oily pork belly was sandwiched between the tender and fragrant lettuce, and the taste was no less than sleeping in a pile of money. Wen Jiu first soaked the pork belly in cold water to accelerate the thawing, and then used a variety of spices and seasonings to make the sauce. To brush on the meat, mix cloves, cardamom, cinnamon, galangal, star anise and other spices and grind them into powder. Then scoop out 2 small spoons in a bowl and add cumin powder, white pepper powder, salt and other seasonings to mix and stir. When the pork belly is thawed, take it out and use a flame to burn off the fine pig hair on the surface. When the pig hair is roasted, the skin of the pork belly will shrink and tighten, making the pork belly taste better. Wen Jiu was constantly tinkering in the kitchen. She had just taken the pork belly out of the hot water and was about to drain it when she saw a little black head sneaking out of the kitchen door frame. Although Xiao's head was very black, it was almost impossible to find its trace when the light was turned on. But the tufts of red hair on its forehead were really conspicuous, like a flame burning in the darkness. Good cat, don't go into the kitchen to make trouble. Wen Jiu wiped the moisture off the pork belly with kitchen paper, then used a toothpick to poke many small holes in the skin, and picked up a kitchen knife to cut the pork belly to the first layer of lean meat. Xiao continued to poke his head at the kitchen door frame, as if trying to test where he could move around in the house. Seeing that Wen Jiu was still tinkering with things on the chopping board, it took a cautious step towards the kitchen. Well, it was not scolded, so it bravely continued to step inside, its long black tail swaying slowly behind it. Just when it thought it had conquered the kitchen, Wen Jiu smiled and waved the kitchen knife twice. Xiao, you'd better be more conscious, or I'll kill you. She had already seen this bad cat approaching, but she didn't say anything to stop it. She didn't expect Xiao to be so bold. She warned him, but he still dared to run into the kitchen. The frightened Xiao meowed and quickly fled out. After leaving, he meowed several times in the living room. Wen Jiu had the illusion that it was praising her in cat language, so she shouted, "Xiao, be good, I'll feed you dried fish later." After that, she took out a bag of small yellow croaker from the refrigerator. She originally bought it to make salted and crispy small yellow croaker as a snack, but now Xiao was weak and couldn't eat the cat snacks sold outside, so she might as well make some herself. Today's second update has been delivered. Please check it out, little angels. Everyone, please vote. My child has collected less and voted less recently. I feel like I'm out of favor, cack. Thanks again to every little angel for their support and love. 030. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.